Welcome to the Fantasy Fangirls podcast, where two sisters dive deep into beloved fantasy lore, character themes, series, and more. I'm Lexi, older sister and fantasy lore nerd.
And I'm Nicole, younger sister and romantic at heart.
And today is episode 6 for Heat of the Everflame by Penn, where we are covering chapters 56 through 64. As always, before we begin this Heat episode 6, please listen closely to our spoiler warning. Because all of these episodes have spoilers for Book 3 of the Kindred's Curse Saga, Heat of the Everflame, yes, that includes the ending.
We meet Ophiucae. This episode, this is not a drill, so get ready for all the lore, all the downloads, all the theories. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about or who I'm talking about, then dear God, please go finish the series. We will be here when you're done.
Next, we of Fantasy Fangirls are adults who say adult things about adult books. In other words, friends, this podcast is rated R.
Orly may be the biggest cock block of them all, but we still get a finger bang this episode. So please be mindful of those little listening ears.
It's so awkward.
It's so awkward and I love it.
Additionally, we are so excited to see you at upcoming live events.
This weekend, we will be back at the Dragon Gauntlet in Boyne City, Michigan, September 12th through 13th.
Then Romantasy BookCon in Orlando, Florida, October 23rd through 25th, where we are interviewing Rebecca Yarros again at Disney World. And on March 6th through 8th in Dallas, Texas, we'll be podcast partners at Dreamers and Readers Festival.
Check out our website or the links below for more information to all of these events, plus discount codes for some of them as well.
Last thing before we jump into this Heat of the Everflame episode 6, if you love Fantasy Fangirls and want more events, more content, more community, and just so much more all around, please check out Fantasy Fan Club.
We have 3 membership tiers that you can join. The Descended, which includes access to our Boppin' Discord, live Q&As from Lexi and I, a book club, exclusive author interviews, community events like trivias, promo codes for live events, plus exclusive designs, and 20% off all merch. That is for $6 a month. Or you can join the Royal Family, which includes everything from the Descended level, plus early access to ad-free episodes, our full episode outlines, and special voting privileges. That is for $10 a month. And last but not least, we have our Crowns Council, which includes everything from the previous 2 tiers, plus behind the scenes content, a welcome gift, giveaways, private Discord channels, and your name shouted out on the podcast. That is for $25 a month.
Join the party at fantasyfangirls.com/fan club. The link is also in the show notes. Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts as we've turned this podcast into a dream come true. It is all because of you.
And now it is time to learn that we are the queens of Montios.
To start off every episode, Nicole does us the honor of summarizing this stretch of chapters. So gather round as we consult with our royal advisors to discuss what happens in chapters 56 through 64 of Heat of the Everflame.
Chapter 56. The flight back to Lumnos is, well, to say things are tense would be quite the understatement. After sending off the Fortos prisoners with instructions not to go to Vance, Diem, Luther, and Orly set off for the Lumnos Palace to go get Teller. Do I smell a half-baked plan? As the palace grows nearer, the situation becomes more and more clear. Diem realizes that maybe, just maybe, Luther's "we should get a plan together" was right, but she tries anyway. Steering Sarai towards the palace, all hell breaks loose, and Luther's magic is fading fast. Attempting to land for the second time, Luther throws up his shields again, but it is not enough, and a Godstone spear pierces Sarai. Abort! 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 With no other options, Diem orders Sarai to head for Montios, leaving Teller behind with only a single second to see that his mother is alive and well. Chapter 57. Leaving Lumnos, our crew finds a whole lot of nothing but snow and ice and cold. Welcome to the barren landscape of Montios. Still without their magic, the crew has nothing else to do besides sit around and talk, during which Luther confesses he assumed going back to Lumnos might not be possible, but that's okay. Diem is his home. My heart! Can these two please just sneak away and go get some firewood? Wink, wink, hint, hint, please? But no, Orly has a lot of cockblocking to do and ruining the moment. Leave the fornication to dreams only. Mine and Diem's. Chapter 58. The next morning, Diem gets up bright and early to sneak away. But gets a little distracted by letting Sire fly freely through the sky. Circling closer to the ground, they find something quite interesting. A circle of untouched ground with snow, a location where the Montios Gryvern dies. But looks like she's been gone long enough, and the murderous-looking mother is watching Diem when she returns to camp like she's sneaking home through the window in the middle of the night. No time for a full reprimand, because out walks a group of Fortos soldiers, and they're here to arrest Diem and drag her back to Lumnos, kicking and screaming. Before the soldiers can do anything like kill Orly, the ground shakes, and out walks a group of Montios descended, with a 7-year-old leading the charge. Lexi, this would be your daughter. Chapter 59. While Diem stands there fully shackled, the 7-year-old is giving the Fortos soldiers a run for their money in realm politics. Tired of their bullshit, the Montios descended turned the ground at the soldiers' feet into ice and watched them slide away into the sunset. Following the Montios descended down a slippery slide of doom, Diem and Co. find themselves in the mysterious underground city of Montios. It's time for Diem to meet the "Where have you been?" Crown's Council. It's much nicer than a howler. But it's during this conversation that Diem learns some very important information. Diem, darling, you're well on your way to catching them all because you are the Montios crown. Chapter 60. Me? Your crown? Shut up! Things have gotten a whole lot more interesting now that Diem is officially wearing 3 crowns. Reaching into the foraging magic, Diem searches, and who does she find? A silvery glowing man just chilling in the Forgotten Lands. And suddenly, he grabs her! Oh no, she can't leave. Heat and a 10-pointed star is left behind where his hand had been. She did not ask for a mystery tattoo. This is not Vegas. Releasing the foraging magic, Diem finds herself back with the Montios descended. But there's no time to plan. Moves have to be made now, and Diem needs more magic. Chapter 61. After filling up her tank most of the way, it's time to go to the Forgotten Lands. But wait, what's that in the sky? It's a bird! It's a plane! Oh shit, it's a Gryvern. Hopping off their horses, Diem's feet touch the ground and she instantly is revitalized, full of energy and magic. But Luther's magic, on the other hand, has been sucked dry. Scouting the area, the crew sees plants and crops and oh dear god, it's a pile of shit! Oh, never mind, it's Vance. That's not all. After seeing Ophiucae walk into the clearing, Diem crafts a bow out of magic and lines up her shot perfectly and fires! Shot through the heart! Nope, it's not that easy. The second the arrow pierces his skin, he lights up like a Christmas tree, absorbing the arrow. Chapter 62. Well, this is awkward. Diem just tried to kill her sire. With her mind spiraling, the only thing Diem needs right now is the truth from her mother. And so Orly tells her every last detail. And at the end of their conversation, Orly blames Diem for not asking the right questions instead of being honest with her daughter. Orly, oh boy, you better be ready for some L's this episode. Chapter 63. Storming away from her mother, Diem needs a distraction, and who's more better suited for the task than my #1 book boyfriend, Luther Courbois himself? And he's happy to oblige. And finger bang, fingerty bang. I said, get the hell away from her! Bang! Well, this is awkward. Orly interrupts at the worst moment possible. Can someone please let these two climax? I'm suffering for them. Diem tries to explain to her mother what's going on, but Orly refuses to believe that Luther is anything but a horrible, horrible man who's just using Diem to get to the throne. Listen, I'd sit on that throne with him. It's only after forcing the truth into Orly's thick skull that she finally sees the full picture. Luther and Diem love each other, and Luther's only goal is Diem's happiness. I'm not weeping, you are. Chapter 64. After a long night of trading stories and airing out the truth, our crew is finally ready and all on the same page, for the most part. While on their trek to Sofos, Orly drops another bomb. Too soon? The Queen of Arbros is working with the Guardians, and on top of it, she's a secret half-mortal. Before they go their separate ways, Orly pulls Luther aside to speak in private, because even though she trusts him, she still has to make sure he knows she's willing to cut off his balls if he hurts her daughter. Leave his balls alone, Orly. After making sure everyone knows their part in what's to come next, Orly goes off to the Guardian camp to spread the word about Ophiucae, while Diem and Luther step into Sofos.
Yay! I'm so excited! Okay, friends, it is time to reach for our foraging magic and unravel key insights, character analysis, lore, foreshadowing theories, and so much more. We're going to Montios, and I'm so excited! Last episode, we covered how Diem and Luther help the escaped prisoners from Fortos and get them safely to Lumnos with an informative map and bribery money. So please don't mind as we skip over that part here and turn our attention to Diem's return to the Lumnos Palace with her mother and Luther on Sarai's back. You know, the palace that everyone told her was a big risk to come back to with her guardian leader mother that she just broke out of prison. Diem used up all of her magic, getting everyone out of Fortos alive and healed. And while Luther has pushed some of the little magic he has left into her, she is running on fumes. But the danger of coming back to Lumnos, the risks of being drained of magic, it doesn't matter to Diem. She is determined to bring her mother back to Lumnos and reunite her family. She promised to tell her after all. I do want to quickly add that I don't believe he asked her to make this promise. In fact, Teller understands the risks of bringing their mother back here better than Diem, and he's not asking for that. But I do believe this shows how much Diem feels like she owes her brother and is trying to make things right.
Oh, it's 100% a guilt feeling that's just eating Diem alive, and like she refuses to see she's a Bellator after all. Yep. She refuses to see any other option but making it right with Teller, even when he's like, yes, he's sad, he wants to be with his mother. We see that clearly in the scene that we're going to talk about, but he's also intelligent in the way of he can weigh those pros and cons unbiasedly.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't matter that the army soldiers have already tried to kill Diem once here in Lumnos, and Remus ratted them out to the Fortos king, seemingly willing to have them killed. Remus knows about this plan to rescue her mother, but Diem is relying on him hoarding this valuable information to himself within Lumnos, even though he tattled on her to the Fortos king. Diem has tunnel vision with this mission, as does her mother right now too, a mission she has been on since the first book of the series. Reunite her family, bring her mother home. Quote, after letting my father and brother down so completely in so many ways, this felt like my chance to finally make it right. Exactly what you were saying here, Nicole, about that guilt. Plus, Diem thinks Teller deserves to be back with his mother. He needs her. He needs a sense of comfort in the chaos that has unfolded in their lives. He deserves the same answers that Diem so desperately needs, and she doesn't want to keep more secrets from him. Like he said before Diem left to Fortos, he didn't ask for any of this. He is consumed with grief, betrayal, and pain. Diem is a fixer, and she sees bringing her mother back to Lumnos as fixing a problem and making things right with her brother. I personally think she maybe should have let her mom go with the mortals, hide somewhere in Mortal City, and Diem would get word to tell her to see her. But that's just me. Though that does prove the point how desperate Diem is for her family to be reunited together instead of at the palace and Mortal City. So here's the plan for sneaking Orly into the Lumnos palace. Orly keeps her hood up while on Sarai's back before they land, so no one will recognize her, especially with her signature copper red hair. Then the plan is for Sarai to land on the coastline where Luther can sneak Orly in through the royal dock, and Sarai and Diem can take off and create a distraction for the palace. But immediately, our crew sees just how much trouble they are in. For one, there are 10 times as many guards as usual around the royal docks, and when they abort that and approach the palace, they realize it is swarmed with army soldiers ready for her. Well, shit! And then the soldiers launch a bolt at Sarai. Double shit! They're really trying to take them out from the sky. These army soldiers are actually trying to take down a crowned Gryver. What the fuck? Well, I will say this. As far as they are concerned, the queen who controls the Gryvern is completely rogue and must be stopped. And then the archers are aiming for our crew here, and Diem is struck in the shoulder with an arrow. Triple shit!
Fairly, Luther is seeing these risks and noting them and actually wondering if they should go to Lumnos at all. It just doesn't really make sense. Luther, before even hopping on Sarai and going to Lumnos, was like, let's create a plan B just in case something goes wrong, like the triple shits that have happened so far. Because the very reality is that they are not able to land in Lumnos, especially not safely. They have very little magic. Like, remember, they're drained, basically. Luther has like minuscule amounts. And there's a fuck ton of soldiers in Lumnos from the army, most of them with magic. So he's not saying let's not go. He's simply asking for maybe we just get a plan B in place because the stakes are too impossible. A plan B? Not on the Bellator's watch. Both Diem and Orly, I think it's important to note that it is both of them, at least at first, plant their feet in the metaphorical sand. There is not going to be a plan B because failing to land to get to Teller is not an option, nor is waiting for their magic to come back where they'd be able to shield like the entire time rather than just in little spurts, or let alone fight back. So I'm sorry, Prince, your logic, it seems, is going to go unanswered. And I am dishing out my first GFDD of the episode. God fucking damn it, Diem. Because this is going to be a theme this episode. It's called Stop and Breathe for a flippin' second so you can come up with a smarter plan, or at least a plan B. It's entirely driven from guilt versus common sense.
Yes. Luther shields up as Sarai swoops down toward Teller, but the arrows keep raining down. Teller is trying to get to his sister, but he's being held back. Remus is flustered. We'll talk about that more in a second. Alix is mouthing to Diem to go. She sees how dangerous the situation is, and she's genuinely worried for their lives. And Alix feels so helpless to stop it. But Diem needs to get to her brother. Teller is reaching his hands up, hoping to be grabbed right from the palace and up into the sky. Yet arrows and spears keep clinking against Luther's shield. He doesn't have enough magic to hold it any longer. A godstone blade rips into Sarai's side. When I first read this, I was like, oh my god! Sending a blast of pain through Diem due to their bond together. But don't worry. Godstone is not fatal for a Gryvern unless it is through the heart. And by the way, that foreshadowing makes me extremely nervous for a Gryvern and burn. Laying down across Sarai's back and with Orly holding his ankles, Luther pulls the spear free from Sarai's side. So it's time to try again, right? Diem has to get Teller after all. But sadly, no, Diem. Even Orly recognizes that it's time to cut their losses. And Luther has to give Diem the cold, hard truth. If Teller leaves the palace right now, he will also be a fugitive and he will no longer be safe. Diem doesn't really want that for him, does she?
Diem now sees that this is too dangerous to land, let alone anything else. Diem doesn't want Teller to become that accomplice for them. He took no part in this. It does not feel right for her as big sister, but she needs to keep at least one promise to her brother, and this is the best one she can think of. So stopping outside of the soldier's reach, Diem finds her little brother desperately trying to break out of Terran and Perth's grip. Diem calls out an apology to him, but Teller is like, no, don't leave, and oh my god, it breaks my heart. So jabbing his elbow into Terran's ribs and twisting Perth's wrist until he lets go, Teller escapes their reach at least. So he's like reaching towards Diem and co. He might be an academic at heart, but he is still a Bellator, having trained since childhood with Andre and is easily able to step outside two warriors' attempts to grab him and hold him back. And he keeps pleading with Diem not to go. Teller! But as one final offering for her brother, Diem pulls Orly's hood down, giving him a glimpse of her mother before they fly away.
And by doing this, it fully cements Diem as a fugitive who broke the leader of the Guardians out of prison where she was being held by the Crowns. Oh, Teller, we love you. Yes, this was unfortunately the right call, or else Diem, Luther, Orly, and Sarai, they would have died. Luther's magic was completely gone. They had no way of shielding. There were hundreds, if not 1,000 soldiers literally trying to kill them there in the sky. There was no possible way for them to get anywhere close to the Luminos Palace safely. But that doesn't stop this from being a gut-wrenching moment for Teller. He feels abandoned. And yes, he does have confirmation that his mother is alive and his sister succeeded in breaking her out of prison. Yet now they're off together, leaving him behind again. As Teller will tell Diem when they run into each other in Sofos, Teller won't be safe in Luminos anymore after everything that goes down here. Everyone will know that Diem broke their mother out of prison and that Teller's mother is indeed the Guardian leader. He won't be allowed to go to school anymore, not allowed to leave the palace. He will be trapped within the palace and he'll call himself a prisoner there. In hindsight, maybe you shouldn't have come back to the palace, Diem, and sent a message to your brother that your mother was safe instead.
I hate to agree with Remus here, but he was right.
I love Diem. Like, I really do.
Yes,
I feel bad for
same.
saying this about her, but like, and I understand like her tunnel vision with this, and it is showing she is a flawed FMC in this
But
way.
that's
Yes.
what we love about her, is
Yes.
how flawed she is and how she is very realistic in that way. She is steadfast. She is someone who is so mind driven, but not in a logical sense, like in a, this is what I see is the right plan and it is my way or the highway. And sometimes that works out really well for her, and sometimes it really doesn't. And I'm glad we get to see those times where it doesn't, even though Teller is definitely the collateral damage here. Oy. But since this is the last time we see Remus, Terran, and Alix on the page, it is time to do some rapid fire predictions. The last we see of Remus, he is shouting at the soldiers who are actually holding him back and trying to force him inside the palace. What's going on here? We know that Remus called the soldiers to Luminos in order to keep from a war breaking out. We can also assume that this is because he doesn't want to be overthrown by Diem, so having soldiers keeping her in line is best in his eyes. But they're working against him here, it seems. Is it because they're trying to kill Luther?
I was under the impression he wants to be in control of this situation, and he's not whatsoever.
Oh.
And he is being pushed against a wall when this is all happening by the soldiers, and it's like his authority is not being recognized. So I'm guessing he did not expect this straight up attack. He's a politician. Shooting first is not his usual style. So I think that he was wanting it to be more of like a threat and to take them in. And then the soldiers start doing all the shooting and literally trying to kill them. And Remus is a little bit like, whoa, this is not what I said. And the situation was just completely out of hand and he was not in control of it.
That makes a lot of sense. I still phoned a Penn for this because I feel like understanding these little offhanded lines in this battle is going to be really important looking at where Remus's character is going next book. So let's hear what Penn has to say.
Hello, everyone. It's Penn again. I'm so excited to be back for another episode of Phone a Penn. And this week, you want to know, when Diem, Luther, and Orly were flying back into Lumnos, Remus seemed flustered and upset that the soldiers weren't answering to him. And can I shed any light onto why? So I don't think it's too much of a surprise that Remus really values power and being in control. And a lot of the reason that he has butted heads with Diem thus far is because he thinks he should be in charge and be in control as regent. I think Remus realized at that moment that he might have bitten off more than he could chew. Because there are other factors in Amarian who also want to control Diem and to control her realm. And they had their own influences in there. So when you call the Amarian army into your realm and you kind of put them in charge of keeping the peace, so to speak, you might lose control of your realm and you might have some power stolen from you. And I think that that is what Remus was experiencing in that moment, that he realized he wasn't in charge at all. The army was in charge and they were doing what they wanted to do, which was to go after Diem and Luther and Orly. I don't want to say too much about Remus because you'll learn a whole lot more about him and his motives in book 4. But I do think he's a really complicated, nuanced character. And there are, from book 1, honestly, there have been little things that he has done, which you might not even realize he was part of, that let's just say he's had his hands in the pot, controlling some things from the beginning as well. And we might learn a little bit more about his influence in book 4.
Well then, that was
I'm
like
so
what
excited.
I thought, and then like 10 times.
Oh my god.
I'm so excited for Burn. Oh my god.
Does he have his hands in?
I don't know. God damn
Penn,
it, you're gonna make us have to reread Spark already?
Well, all of this to say, I feel like between this time now and the beginning of Burn, I feel like things are not going to be so easy peasy for Remus. Like, he is not in control of Lumnos anymore. It is the army completely taking over control. So I feel like we are just really seeing some very interesting power dynamics, and that's going to be exploited tenfold, especially with what happens later in Montios with the Fortos soldiers. He does not have as much control as he thinks. I'm so excited. What if he's in prison when they go back, and he's like in the dungeons? And they're like, how'd you get here, Dad?
And they wouldn't let him out either. So going back to this about like the Amarian army and all of that too, a big question that we had from last episode and that continues here is who is going to oversee the Amarian army? When we read the first 3 preview chapters of Burn, there is a comment about how the Amarian army doesn't have a leader and it's a little discombobulated and all of that. And so I think that it's kind of taking control in and of itself. And they see Lumnos as a place where they really have a tight grip on control there. And there is not really a leader in Lumnos, at least not one that they recognize. And I don't know where all that could go, but yeah, interesting. Very interesting.
I could see Sofos kind of taking the lead.
I do too.
But I don't see that going so well because they are also, Fortos is also so traditional in the sense that they look at their king or their high commander. That is it. And Sofos, I love Doriel. Doriel is extremely powerful. They are not from Fortos.
Yep.
So I don't know. Before I start absolutely spinning out. So next we have Alix, who is working here with the soldiers. But it is not because she is suddenly evil and working against our core trio. It is instead because she is doing exactly what Diem told her to do. Obey Remus's commands, or at least now it is the Fortos' commands, which sucks for Alix, as if those were orders from Diem herself. Now, as much as this part feels like a facepalm moment on especially Diem's part, I'm actually going to challenge that because Alix is going to be working now from the inside in the Fortos stronghold of Lumnos to help mitigate any discourse in that realm. I think this is fascinating. I'm so excited. I feel like between now and where we will see her first in Burn, which we can assume is going to be, at some point. I don't know when, but I think Alix is going to be working deep on the inside. And I kind of love that for her. Oh, remember that first, she's the one who goes into the camp to strike out the commander. Like, she's the sneaky one.
Yes.
That's exactly she's not going to, I don't know, but it's sneaky. It's been foreshadowed for so long. I'm so excited.
Here I am being like, I'm just so happy that she's going to be having the Godstone armor made.
And I'm like, Alix is going to have her sneaky spy era. And I'm so excited for her. Oh my God. And last but not least, we have Terran, who is last seen holding poor Teller back. I feel like Terran in this time from now, and then when we will see him in Burn, he won't be a necessarily working fully in the shadows kind of guy like Alix. But I'm sure he will be working with Alix in some capacity. But my guess is his number one goal is going to be protecting Zeleric from the Hanovers full stop. Now, does that mean they will still be at the palace, him and Zeleric? I would think so. I feel like it would best help Diem's mission. We know Luther has not spoken to Terran, at least from the beginning of Burn, because he mentions that. And it hurts my heart because I feel like this is one of the longest stretches him and his cousin have ever gone through without talking, and I want their reunion so badly.
Oh, me too. I will say this, I'm a little bit worried about Terran's drinking and how he's feeling about Alix having to be High General and take orders from people she doesn't want to. Terran is not known for thinking strategically in that way, as we learned from Umbros. I do think that he and Eleanor are going to be working together to bring a younger descendant of the 20 houses to their side, though.
I do think actually his drinking is still going to be less because remember in his bonus chapter when he was around Zeleric, he mentions how he makes him want to drink less. So I think that because of Zeleric's presence in his life, I have hope that maybe that crutch will not be used quite as much.
That's a really good point. I hope so as well. I really want our Terran to have that stability there, yes.
I was feeling gutsy, and so I decided to ask Penn if there is anything she'd be willing to share about what's going on behind the scenes with Terran and Alix between now and the beginning of Burn, and here is what she said.
Given that this is the last time that you see Terran and Alix in Heat, can I shed any light on what happened to them after the big incident and what they might have been up to in the interim between that scene and Burn? That is an interesting question. I can tell you that they both had very different roles to play after that attack. We saw that Diem told Alix to get close to Remus, keep an eye on him, and be loyal to him, even if it meant turning against her. And I mean, if there's one thing we can say about our girl Alix, she follows orders. So I think she is really caught in a really hard place, let's say that, between trying to stay loyal to her queen, but also having to manage Remus, who is now in charge of the realm, and staying on his good side, I guess. So I would not want to be her. She's in a really tough place, and we will see how that really impacts her in book 4. Terran is a very different situation. He's just as loyal, but I think Terran is loyal in a very, loud, upfront way and not in kind of the quiet, strategic way that Alix is. And so I think Terran, as we saw in the attack, is really focused on Teller and probably also Lily. And, knowing that Diem and Luther are off doing something really important and they left their most precious loved ones behind. And I think that in his eyes, the most loyal thing he can do is really keep an eye out for them and make sure they're okay. A wrench gets thrown into those plans a little bit in part 3, as you will see. But I think that Taryn is both trying really hard to do what he can for Diem and Luther from afar, but he also has a new guest in Lumnos in the form of Zalric, and I think that's also taking up quite a lot of his time in a very different way. So we will definitely reunite with them in book 4, and we will find out more about what they have been up to and how what they were up to in the interim impacts their relationships with some of our other characters. Something to look forward to.
I feel like we're on to something. I'm terrified to confirm it, but I feel like we're on to something. Anyway, after leaving the very distraught Teller behind, Sarai heads straight for the snowy lands of Montios, which, remember, is the realm directly north to Lumnos, and it takes up about the 10 and 12 o'clock position. Yes, Montios is giant. It's almost like it used to be 2 territories, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Touching down just inside the border in a sunken valley at the base of a towering snow-capped peak, Luther, Diem, and Orly settle in for a long night.
Diem has a shoulder wound, and without her magic, she can't heal this injury. According to Luther, the stronger you are, the longer it takes to replenish your magic. And it seems, at least this rule about the Descendant applies to Diem. How inconvenient for her. Which makes me wonder, is it possible that Ophiucae's magic can get drained and he'll be weak enough to be killed? If Diem, being as powerful as she is, can drain her magic, maybe his can too, although I will also say, I definitely get the vibes that his aura is way stronger than even hers, and that's really saying something.
Yeah, I agree. I'm getting the same vibes. With little vegetation to hide from enemies and the weather just being cold, and apparently not wanting to build a snow fort, the group resorts to hiding under Sarai's wing for the evening. But thank goodness Luther is quite the smart cookie. Knowing that there was a pretty good chance they would not be able to go back to Lumnos, this is the plan B I'm talking about, but note how he didn't tell Diem about his own plan B, because he would, never mind, it's fine. Luther packs the Montios gift from her Ascension ball, a cloak spelled to keep its wearer warm. Perfect, because they need it. It's freezing. Which is also why he had the map and the gold, but he gave those to the prisoners last episode in Fortos.
Because that was not part of the plan, was to break everybody out.
Exactly.
Luther deserves a gold star for just being such a golden retriever with his girl.
I love him.
As our little fugitive group figures out what their next steps are, Orly, unsurprisingly, insists they go to a guardian camp nearby. Now, initially, I thought that she was talking about the guardian camp up in the Forgotten Lands because that is the known guardian camp up north that is often referenced. However, later on in the stretch, we do learn that guardians are, I'll say, like hiding out in the trees and stuff like that. So that guardian camp is not the only guardian presence in this realm here. But little does Orly know, her ex-boyfriend has taken over leadership there. I can't fault Orly for offering this. She has been very out of the loop these past 8 months and doesn't really know what's going on between her daughter and the guardians, right? Yet, when Diem explains to her mother that the last time she was in a guardian camp, she was drugged and chained up and they almost killed her prince and Gryvern like what they just escaped in Lumnos. But all Orly heard there was Diem's prince, and she focused only on her negative perception of Luther, not about her daughter being in danger with the guardians whatsoever. Oh my goodness gracious. Orly really does not comprehend what her daughter is, a descended queen, even if she likes to use Diem's power status against Luther. She only thinks of Diem as her daughter. She's still living in the lie that she spent 2 decades crafting. Like Diem back in Spark, Orly has convinced herself that Diem is normal, because that was how they needed to survive. Never forget the Delulu Diem ranking. But now that the cat's out of the bag, like Nicole said last episode, and Diem is a descended queen no less, time to get with the program here, Orly, or at least try try to open your mind to it, Diem is considered an enemy now to Orly's people. It doesn't matter that Diem's mother is the leader of the Guardians. It doesn't matter that Diem grew up with mortals and that she was considered a mortal for most of her life, because the Guardians see a descendant and immediately believe the worst as they live in the black and white, which Orly may not understand that her daughter is now viewed as the enemy, but she certainly has her own prejudice and does think in the black and white when it comes to Luther, who is a descendant. They have their own personal issues in history, and they focus on saving the half-mortals, but at the end of the day, he is still a descendant and ultimately part of the Guardian and Mortals' foundational enemy to Orly.
Orly's treatment of Luther is a choice, considering the lengths they both went to as allies to help the mortals. But Orly sees something in Luther's eyes, and she has convinced herself it is a feigned love for Diem. Also, he can get close to her daughter, who, let's be honest, Orly still considers to be that naive little girl. And once Luther is then close to Diem, he can get to the throne. Orly and Diem may be similar in their stubborn-headedness. We just saw that above. But Orly never trusts anyone, not until they go basically above and beyond to earn her trust. And as far as she has seen, Luther has not earned that from her. Also, as she will later put it, Luther had no problem working around Ulthar when he was king, so why wouldn't he do the same to Diem? Orly is the walking definition of Mother Gothel's Mother Knows Best song from Tangled. So how does she deal with this distrust? I'm so glad you ask. Let's start with the small ways. By ordering him to take first watch so he isn't alone with Diem, so her and Diem can get some sleep, and also not giving a flying fuck when he keeps watch all night so that they could sleep, by reprimanding him for calling his queen by a first name, given she's probably never seen him do that with anyone else in the years she's been working with him. Speaking of that familiarity, when Luther calls Diem out on a lie and Diem starts apologizing for worrying him, Orly is like, "Where's my apology, daughter?" Massive points for Luther here, though, because he clips back with a quote. I wonder where she picked up her habit of disappearing on the people who love her with no explanation. Just bravo, my guy. But my favorite is the big cherry on top. By suggesting her and Diem ditch Luther and go to a guardian camp. After all, he's a descended prince, Diem, totally ignoring, like Lexi was saying, the fact that she is a descended queen. Orly has been out of touch for a while, but still she is acting like nothing has changed, and she alone has the answers and the knowledge and the wherewithal to make decisions. And she also knows who to trust. You've been gone for almost a year, Orly. Your daughter is now a queen. Shit has changed, and now is my official god fucking damn it, Orly. GFDA, we have a new acronym. Understandably, Orly's diminishing and treating of Luther as an other, it fucking hurts Diem, who wouldn't want their mother, someone they love and trust, to like the guy you're dating and who you want to spend the rest of your life with. It doesn't help matters that Orly treated Henry like a second son, especially since his mother had died, and Orly became that maternal figure for Henry. Well, we can gather now that Orly also saw the guardian-like fight and fire within Henry, so of course she would like him. He has similar values, he is immortal, yada yada yada. Luther, he may have similar values, but it's in the shadows. It's masked behind someone who is running the harm on the mortals in the realm. She does not trust his motives, like I said earlier. Remember in Glow of the Everflame, it was a running, irritating thought about how Diem was jealous of Orly and Luther and how they used to work together as allies. She felt like Orly knew Luther better than she did, and then also, in return, she felt like Luther knew this totally different side of Orly than Diem grew up with. Well, here is where we finally see just how that allyship was professional at best, hostile at worst. And it surprises Diem.
I think Luther also didn't want to outright tell the girl he likes how much he and her mother butted heads. He said they had their issues, but he was protecting Diem from the truth of how bad it was and how much of foes they really were.
I mean, they can barely get through a conversation in these, 10 chapter stretches without fighting instantly. But mostly this building resentment she's feeling towards her mother is only getting amplified by Orly's treatment of Luther. I will say this is not me condoning Orly's treatment of my boy, but Diem is not helping matters necessarily by keeping zipped-lipped about her and Luther's relationship. It's a fight she wants to hold off as long as she can. And to be honest, it's simultaneously, I don't blame Diem either. She hasn't seen her mother in almost a year. She mourned her loss. Orly is now having to mourn Andre's death, so she's going through it. And also, Diem doesn't want to get her mother back and then immediately hop into a fight. But keeping this information is coming at the cost of Luther in this trio. The truth will have to come out soon enough, but we'll have to wait a second for that.
The following day, Diem takes off on Sarai when she knows Luther's magic is back so he can protect him and her mother should they need to. Our girl needs some time alone to think, to breathe. It's been a tough few days, okay? And where better to process the shitstorm of the past few days than up with Sarai, flying over Montios, this realm her heart calls to now that she is, unknowingly, its queen. This is my dream, flying on my Gryvern over the mountains. Oh my God, I have chills up and down my body just thinking about this. Diem is grappling with the fact that she is now the Fortos crown too, and she needs a little space to think so she can begin planning a war. Kind of hard to plan a war when you're always in reactionary battle, right? Well, I will say this, at least she'll have plenty of time to think and plan this war while she's stuck on Korea. There's the silver lining we needed.
That's what we were looking for. So there's this interesting line while Sarai is trying to tell Diem through the bond about a certain kindred that sparked this harsh darkness within her Gryvern. We can deduce that this is Omnos / probably Ophiucae. I keep having to remind myself that is not confirmed they're the same person. But as Sarai is trying to tell her, quote, "My throat went tight in phantom pains as Sarai strained against the bounds of whatever held her back." So do you think that this is part of when the kindred wiped the probably Omnos / Ophiucae from existence, the 10th kindred, they also spelled it within the Gryverns against being able to share the information about the 10th kindred?
Yes, absolutely.
Ooh, tell for the conference room right now.
I need more information on this whole Omnos thing. He's a really bad guy.
I'm just pointing out that, again, this is the kindred controlling the narrative of the story.
True.
There's
Yes.
this element of, I mean, we talked about this endlessly back in Umbros at the library, but burning information out of books or missing pages. Now, we don't know if that was Ophiucae or if that was something else. We don't know. But if they also spelled it against the Gryverns from being able to share anything, like even a warning about a guy who is terrible.
But they think that he's dead.
They do think he's dead, or at least constrained.
I think that the kindred did think that they got rid of their brother, and then I think that he came back around the Blood War, and then that is when he got imprisoned, because we have to remember he was imprisoned during the Blood War.
That's true. That's true. Okay, I can get behind that, but it still does not excuse the at least lowercase l that I'm giving them for yet again controlling the narrative of history. It's just interesting. Very, very interesting. Anyway, as they're flying, Diem sees something, again, interesting, but this time to the east, pulling Diem to go and, quote, "Claim me, daughter of the forgotten. Buckle up, buttercups, because here we go." The standard lavender mountains of Montios abruptly change to a forest, set on a series of steep hills. But this is no ordinary forest. The trees are blackened, like they've been burned. Burn of the Everflame, or poisoned. Then at the center in this low valley that she can't really see what's going on at the bottom, there are several columns of smoke rising into the air. We know that this is the Forgotten Lands, Omnos' original realm that has been held by guardian camps for who knows how long. The Crown Council of Montios will mention later about how this is an area of the realm they do not enter because the land is evil. Any descendant who goes there nowadays is found strung up in a tree, tortured, dead, with a 10-pointed star carved into their skin. And oddly, they've seen this same symbol carved into every adult who was killed in a Miros fishing village recently. The children, you asked, from this fishing village, they all vanished.
I really think and hope that these children will show back up and be okay. Like, what is he doing with them? Their magic isn't in yet, so he can't use them to absorb power. So is he, like, recruiting them? But no, like, he wants to get rid of all descended. I am concerned.
I am deeply concerned.
What if for his magic to officially work, he does need there to be some descendant out there who have those magics so he can have access to those magics.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm so scared for those kids. As we will learn, this is Ophiucae's symbol, and as we will talk about more later, because now the Forgotten Lands hold a faction of guardians who are led by Ophiucae. Among them, our dude, pile of shit, Vance.
But back to this moment here. With her godhood saying, "Claim me, daughter of the Forgotten," for only the third time ever, the other 2 times being when she got her Lumnos and Fortos crowns, and probably Montios too, but she was knocked out for that one. This is her other land calling to her, but I don't think it's in the same crown sense as the others. Now, we do know that Ophiucae does have a 10-pointed crown on his head, but he's not tied to the same magical rules as the other kindred were and their descended offspring. This is Diem's home realm calling to her, waiting for her to claim it, own it. She is drawn more to Omnos's realm because it's her realm. But this isn't all that happens. An image comes into Diem's mind like a memory or a dream. The image is of screaming and bloodshed, of explosions and a blinding light, of Diem's mother's arms around her and a crushing pain.
Okay, so before we get into all of that, I have a question about the blinding light comment. Because we know from each time Diem gets a new crown, at least where she's conscious, there is a bright light. Could this blinding light be the one to rise, like 11 must fall for one to rise, like the one crown to rise, the one ring to rule them all, basically? Like, is this blinding light like this massive explosion of light of Diem becoming the one crown to rise?
I don't know, but I do think it could be possible of it being when she gets another crown, especially with the crushing pain. She experiences that on her head when she does get a new crown. Diverting a little bit, I wonder if this image of Orly wrapping her arms around Diem is foreshadowing for her death in the scene.
Yes.
Like she's saving her daughter. The blinding light could also be Ophiucae using his power. And this image is right before the main vision we've gotten with Diem and Luther. I have to believe it is the same scene as the main vision with the screaming and the bloodshed. Explosions make me immediately think of the Guardians.
So question, we know that Luther and Diem's vision together, she's surrounded by hundreds of dead bodies.
Yes. Screaming, bloodshed, blinding light. Her mother
Orly.
trying to save her, explosions. I also wonder if perhaps Orly is saving Diem from explosions that the Guardians planted, and she's sacrificing herself for her daughter when the Guardians tried to kill her. That would be very poetic for Orly's end. But I really do think that this is right before the main vision.
Burn is gonna wreck us.
I know!
Oh my god. When we get the hotel where we read overnight, we're gonna need to bring tissues.
We're going to need it to be like a really calming, comforting.
I know, like a lot of candles or something. Fast forward back at the camp, a new danger has arrived for our trio and Gryvarn. Out of the wild vegetation steps out a group of Fortos soldiers draped in dark cloaks with their hoods pulled low to conceal their faces. These soldiers are the same ones they fought back at the Lumnos Palace, and the ones who launched the bolts at the crew with intentions to kill. They are armed with Godstone weapons and the orders of the Regent of Lumnos. Now I have a quick question. I might be giving Remus too much credit, but do they have orders from him? Because they weren't following his orders back in Lumnos. He was losing control. Are they actually following Remus's orders here, or are they just saying they are so that they can do whatever they want? Later in the council meeting with the Montios council, one of them will say how the army used to have an agreement from all 9 crowns in order to act. Then the rule changed to the vote of 6 crowns. But as that council member points out, it seems the Fortos army now does not intend to honor even those rules. Again, it's another moment for that military political setup for next book. I can't wait. But did Remus actually do this, or is this another version of them going rogue? Or am I giving Remus too much credit?
I hadn't thought about that. I just assumed that it was him because he does want to get Sarai back and have her be chained up and all of that. I think that he did tell them, but they took it like 3 steps further.
Yeah.
With the Godstone and like that and executing your mother and all of that kind of stuff. So I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Regardless as to who promoted this not so welcome attack, the orders are simple. Diem has to come back to Lumnos and stay in Lumnos, as well as turn Sarai over to Remus. Since Diem defied the supposed Lumnos Crown's orders, yes, they're calling Remus the Crown of Lumnos. Sets my feminism start ablaze. Oh my god. Diem is to be taken under arrest and brought back by force if necessary. Sadly, and not so surprisingly from what we know about the misogyny of Fortos, they are calling Remus this crown despite Diem literally having the crown on her head.
I'm going to be very interested to see what happens when it is revealed that Remus does not have his magic. That is such a secret right now, and he is considered the crown for his political sway, but he is not strong even in the slightest. He has no magic now, and I don't think that's going to be respected as soon as that's found out.
Definitely not, especially among the Lumnos descended houses. But not wanting anything to happen to Luther, because remember, these Fortos people have Godstone blades, and several days ago, she almost lost Luther to a Godstone wound. Diem begins to comply with the Fortos soldiers' demands, sending a command for Sarai to go to Remus and obey his orders as if they were his own. This is not to give Remus more power and comply with his orders or whatever. This is because Diem knows if Sarai tries to work against Remus to get back to Diem, she will actually try to do that, she could be injured or killed easily. Also, this is a convenient plot moment, just have to call it out, to get Sarai out of the picture so Diem cannot use her in the Sofos battle next episode with Ophiucae. But after Sarai leaves here, Diem also gives herself up to the Fortos soldiers, agreeing to go with them in order to save Luther. Guess what's back? It's our count! Previously, we were at 5 and 6 with Diem in the lead, but now Diem's taking even a further lead with 7 points. Only after Diem is shackled and about to be whisked away back to Lumnos, the Fortos soldiers admit the new part of the deal. They will also be executing Orly before they leave.
As the soldiers swarm toward our crew's cave to take Orly with them, a huge slab of lavender rock appears out of nowhere, blocking the entrance and keeping her mother inside away from them. But this Montios magic was not Diem for once. The Montios descended have arrived. There are about 20 adults and a little girl about 7 years old who speaks for the group. And they're standing up to these Marian soldiers saying that this is their realm. The Lumnos Queen is here uninvited, which makes Diem, Luther, and Orly their prisoners. In hindsight, we can gather that this is for show against the soldiers. They know that Diem is their crown. And once they're safely away from this danger, our crew will be treated as guests. But they need to take authority in this situation. Which poor Diem is understandably terrified. She had kind of hoped the Montios descended would be more welcoming after her exchange with the king back at her coronation. But these Montios descended are threatening the soldiers and are in this moment the less danger for her crew. But on the plus side, these Montios descended are threatening the soldiers more than her and are in this moment the less dangerous for her crew. Plus, Luther has a hunch about something since Umbros, since he saw Diem's crown, that is.
This little girl may have been serving the Fortos army some hard-needed truth slaps, but sadly, there is one point they have that the Montios struggle to argue. Diem's mother is technically a prisoner of the crowns. She does need to come with them. I will also point out that technically she has those 6 votes against her execution from last episode. Luckily, Luther is a fast thinker.
Because these army soldiers, they're breaking the rules. Oh no, Fortos prides itself on rule following, except when it serves their goals, apparently. How shocking. These soldiers have Godstone weapons pointed at Diem and co, and they are ready to use it against them. And the rule is that you are not allowed to break Godstone into a realm without its crown's consent. It doesn't matter if their business is legitimate, like taking Orly back as a prisoner of the crowns, because Godstone is not something to fuck around with. This is a big no-no in Amarian. As the law says, anyone brandishing a Godstone weapon without consent is subject to immediate execution. Huzzah for Luther, the keeper of the laws! I'm also curious how this law will play into the bigger war. Will this law even matter anymore, or will it continually come up as people use Godstone weapons throughout the realms?
With the execution now flipped and on the soldiers' heads, shockingly, they were like, never mind! It was an honest mistake. Well, at least one crisis is averted, although I definitely feel like we are not done dealing with them.
This Fortos army is a big component of Remus's strength. And as Penn has said, like there really is a battle for control with all of that as well. So yeah, I don't think we've seen the last of these guys.
Definitely not. But speaking of people that we have not seen the last of and who we're not done with yet, the Montios Descended group, they were not just here to help. They do want Diem to come with them and meet the council. Right off the bat, Montios is giving us wildly different vibes than Diem is used to. They're quiet. Like, as in, when they get their magic, they either make a vow of silence to the outside world, aka they don't talk to anyone who isn't a Montios Descended, or they vow silence in totality, like we will see with Nectar later. The polar opposite of Diem, who has no problem using her words to talk her way out or definitely into trouble. But despite the silence, Diem notices a warmness to these people. They're polite to her, first of all. She's welcome in this realm. These higher-ups are smiling at her. This kind of treatment Diem doesn't even get in her own realm, let alone one that she just waltzed into. While we will learn in a moment that Diem is the crown, I really don't think that's the full reason for this kindness. Through the upcoming exchanges, we know that Montios lives by certain virtues. One of those virtues includes kindness. They smile and are nice to Diem literally because those values are embedded in their culture.
Have I mentioned how much I love the mountains? I'm just going to be so giddy during today's Sofos Library. When I think of the Montios Descended bringing Diem, Luther, and Orly to their headquarters, I will call it, all I can think of is Elsa creating her ice castle with a bridge as she sings, "Let it go." We will talk a lot more about this realm and its people in today's Sofos Library, like I was saying. So let's focus on what's happening for our characters in this secluded space, and I will hold off on just admiring the beauty of this area here. Orly, in particular, wants to take advantage of this extremely rare opportunity that no other mortal or descendant have had in centuries. Think about how big of a deal that this is, that they are being brought to the Montios headquarters here. In fact, right before Diem is escorted to the area where only Montios Descended are allowed, leaving Luther and Orly behind in what I call the waiting room, she insists that Diem needs to pay attention to her surroundings, search for maps that illustrate their cities, weapon stockpiles, any other ways getting in or out. That sounds like attack plans there, Orly. Because yep, that's right, Orly is giving Diem a guardian mission right here and now. Oh boy. Diem may believe in the Guardian's overarching cause, but she does not believe in its methods, and she learned her lesson in Glow. Finally! Giving any information to the Guardians, information like this that Orly is demanding from her, it is dangerous. She does not want to help her mother figure out how to infiltrate the space or cause any violence. And we do know that Orly is not violence-driven like Vance, but they want to know more about this for infiltration purposes.
Can I just say, yet again, she's putting the Guardians in front of her family? Just
Yes.
pointing that out.
Yes! If you ask me, I think this moment where Diem is disgusted with her mother's request and knows better than to pass along information, even to her mother, shows so much growth for Diem. I know we've been giving her a hard time recently, but I really do want to give her a big round of applause right here. Diem was doing this information gathering back in Spark because she wanted to feel important with the Guardians. She shared information with Henry and Vance to stay in their good graces. And here she is with her own mother, rejecting her and therefore rejecting her prior role with the Guardians. She's not their puppet anymore.
Diem goes off with the Crown's Council, and like most other things in Montios, it is a very different vibe than Lumnos. As the elder of the Crown's Council, Hepta, states every member of the council, save the Crown, are elected by the people, the descendant of Montios. The council makes the decisions here, not the crown directly. Oh my god! Instead, the crown is one of the council members, but the crown has the same one vote as the rest of the council. But should the council not be able to come to a conclusion, then it is the crown who holds the decisive vote. Fairness is a virtue indeed. I love this. I don't have to reiterate just how revolutionary this is, but I'm going to do it anyway, especially to someone like Diem, who has been dealing with the monarch characters in every single realm, including her own. And she has also been adopting that I am the queen, do as I say attitude herself. So she's not exactly faultless here. I know her and Luther will later talk about this, but I want to bring it up here. Diem adopting this same structure, especially since she's the queen of multiple realms, but with a few amendments. First, from what it sounds like, Diem will not have a vote, and instead, she will only make a decision one way or another should the crown not be able to come to a decision. And second, and in my opinion, most importantly, the council will be made up of half descended and half mortals. Huzzah! I'm so happy! Finally! God!
Also, back in Umbros, Diem read about how the ancient mortals had similar democracies like this before the Kindred arrived. So I also wonder if she will utilize that knowledge and introduce it for this new world. So like taking what she's learned here with the Montios Crowns Council and the ancient mortal democracies and create something better than all of it, hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really hope we get to see this by the end of Burn and this new world that they have to create after the big battle, after the 11 fall, 1 to rise. We'll get to that in a moment. I also love this because it does check Diem's I'm the queen attitude and it snuffs it out. And I'm excited about that. And I think she kind of needs that a little bit.
This Crown's Council shares that the Montios king told them about Diem and that her arrival, aka the new crown's arrival, would be full of surprises. But they also have a few questions for Diem because there's a lot of rumors flying around. For instance, are Diem and her mother guardians? Well, Diem tells them her truth about how she believes in the Guardian's mission to end mortal oppression, purposefully leaving her mother out of it. And then we have another question. Did Diem kill the Fortos king? Yes, though it was in self-defense. And lastly, but most importantly, is Diem the powerful descendant working with the Guardians in the Forgotten Lands? And Diem's like, no way, Jose! She would never purposefully bring harm to an innocent. I just obsess over the setup that we are getting for the big Ophiucae reveal in just a few chapters. We also learn about the Umbros attack 3 days ago with many casualties, which we talked a lot about during our Umbros episodes. This is the attack that yourself foresaw and wanted Diem to stay for to help fight against Ophiucae, even if it meant letting Luther die. During this discussion with the Crown's Council, though, Diem feels out of place. This is a Crown's Council meeting. Where is the Crown? What is Diem doing here with all of them as they are having this meeting? What does the Crown want with Diem? And that's when we get another big reveal. Diem is the crown of Montios. She became the crown on... I know, shocking, right? We haven't been talking about this forever. She became the crown on Kareel during the explosion after the Montios king was sadly killed by the bombs. We've been getting a lot of hints throughout this book leading up to this big revelation that Diem is the crown of Montios, which we've loved calling out all that foreshadowing in these episodes. But oof, Diem has barely had time to process that she is the new crown of Fortos. Now she has a third crown? Luther may have suspected this since Umbros when he saw the difference in her crown after the failed coronation, but this is big news for Diem. Despite her surprise, she's also not shocked. After all, when Diem arrived in Montios earlier in this chapter stretch, her soul felt a calling to this realm in a primal way. She recognizes it as the same protective feeling she has for Lumnos and now Fortos, like a mother for her realm, unconditional love, and need to keep it safe.
How do they know that Diem is the crown before Diem even knows herself? I mean, other than the fact that that's just so on brand for Diem. Earlier, when Diem was out flying on Sarai, the two came across Ramari, the Montios Gryverns, gravesite, a circular patch on a grassy mountainside that was a perfect circle of snowy, unblemished white. A circle that, when Diem walked into, her crown mysteriously reappeared.
Ha! You don't think we weren't going to mention this beautiful and peaceful scene now, do you, listeners? Because this moment of solace that Diem had with her Montios Gryvern that is no longer with us, it just makes my heart so full. And Sarai got to pay tribute to her friend who died centuries ago, who she couldn't save. Just aww.
Well, and also, Ramari helped them from the grave when Ramari shot lavender flames from the ground in the Umbros attack in the skies. Like, oh God, I love this scene so much. Mm-hmm. Then a skittering sound followed by a creaking noise breaks through the peaceful, snowy circled silence. Hello, Montios descended. But not really hello, because they do stay hidden. They're very good at that, after all. But here we learned that they witnessed Diem enter into Ramari's grave circle. But it wasn't the crown's appearance that automatically came up on Diem's head that tipped them off. Only a crown can enter that circle. Their new crown has officially arrived!
I just love how in the circle, only the crown can be there. It's a private space for the Montios crown and its fallen Gryvern.
I love also that they just so happen to be watching this site. Like, I do wonder if there was always a group on watch over Ramari's gravesite, and they're just waiting should their new crown appear. Because remember, they didn't know who their new crown was after the king of Montios previously died.
True. I've been under the impression that as DM was flying over Montios, she did say how she thought that they were probably being watched. So I think that the Montios descendant saw her flying around on her Gryvern and noticed where she landed, and they went to inspect. And that's when they were like, oh shit, she's the new crown.
I could totally see that.
Now that DM knows that she's the crown of Montios, I have a quick note on how DM describes the foraging magic as she reaches in to break Luther from the foraging spell so he has his magic back. As she feels it's fraying gaps, she's caught between conflicting urges, one to heal and make it whole, and one to destroy it. Balance, is that you? The one to destroy is probably sourced from her omnos and godhood, and the one to heal is maybe from like the other kindred crowns that she has. Her omnos godhood is wanting to destroy the foraging magic that outcasted omnos, and then the one to heal is from the other kindred's crowns that she is representing that want to keep it heal and whole.
She also mentions how it would be so easy to burn. Yes, burn is in italics. Do you think she's going to burn away the foraging magic? Or like maybe the Everflame burns away the foraging magic?
I think that would be very dependent on the Heartstone. Yes.
Status,
so what
status
if,
of the Heartstone.
I know that there's not really any way to like burn the Heartstone, but
You melt it. Maybe. I don't know.
She can't.
She could do a lot of things.
She can destroy Godstone, so
Probably.
Maybe.
While
trying to figure out where either instinct is coming from, DM is drawn to a life form that feels other, feels like it doesn't belong. Okay, here we go. Remember, we're still in the foraging magic right here. There's darkness everywhere except in the very center where there's a bright light. As she focuses on this image, the light begins to take the form of a man with his back turned away. But then he senses her presence and turns around with a cold smile. It feels like he's standing right in front of her, like he can see her and is looking directly into her eyes, with his own gray eyes too. Alarm! Alarm! DM's instincts are telling her to run, because while Luther's aura fills her with calm, this man's presence makes DM want to cower and kneel, though she also feels this innate connection with him, like their fates are aligned in an inevitable way. Haha, yes indeed. Obviously, this is Ophiucae, and the fact that he can interact with her within the foraging magic is a big fucking deal. Ophiucae suddenly grips DM's wrist hard, like, whoa, this is not feeling like it's in her mind at all, and he says, well, if it isn't the daughter of the forgotten. So many years I waited for you, my sweet liberation. I will give you the world to show you my thanks. This statement refers to the prophecy about her blood on the Heartstone breaking his chains, and because she finally did it, he owes her a thanks for freeing him. So he's being very clear that he wants her to be on his side, where with their power they can take over this world together. I do wonder if he knew that DM would become at least one crown eventually, like after Orly gets away with her. So he really has been waiting these last 20 years after Orly prevented his first attempt versus giving up that it would never happen.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know.
And then with his palm on her collarbone, he brands DM with the mark of a small, glowing 10-pointed star and tells her to come find him, and that if she ever spies on him like this again, he will kill her.
Oh, God, he's so creepy, and I love him. He's such a good villain. But we have to talk about this glowing mark, because there it is again, that 10-pointed star. This is not the first time we've seen this mark in our story so vividly. We've seen it on the floor of the Kindred Temple from Orly's POV in the final chapter of Spark of the Everflame.
Which, when Orly will see this mark again, she'll recognize it but not be able to pinpoint where she saw it before. It was at the Kindred's temple.
And we also see them in everyone he's attacked. We know they are in Umbros, we know they are in Miros, and in the top of Burn, we know that they're carved into Fortos as well. But what does this 10-pointed star do, necessarily? Number one, we know it glows brighter and hotter whenever Ophiucae is close. Quite convenient for DM and his other followers to know where to find him. Number two, we can also strongly deduce that he can find them through that mark. It's not confirmed, but it's quite convenient for him to be able to find his followers. I really wonder if this magic will work on Kirill, and if Ophiucae will be able to find Diem using it. Or heck, if he can't find her, it wouldn't take a genius to figure out via process of elimination where she is, because he can't find her on the Amarian soil. And number 3, because all his followers are marked, that means they can avoid hurting or killing each other. Or Diem, now that she has been marked as well. We will see this next episode during the battle in Sofos.
So this is his symbol, and if you have the mark, you are considered on his side, or if you're dead, conquered by him. He is power hungry and not afraid to tell everyone he is here and ready to take over. This is both Ophiucae's calling card to his enemies and a symbol of camaraderie with his supporters. So I looked up the meaning of the 10-pointed star, and while it has quite a few religious connotations, in general it represents, are you ready for this, Nicole? The 10-pointed star symbolizes the union of opposites and new beginnings. The union of opposites, like balance? And how much do we talk about the world getting remade by the end of the series? New beginnings. You are so good, Penn Cole. Oh my God.
But this all does boil down to one question, other than just praising the ground Penn walks on. Why would Ophiucae do this for Diem? Call me Delulu Diem, especially after I just praised him for being such a good villain. I don't think he wants to kill her.
That's not his plan A. That is his plan B.
So he's Luther, and he comes up with plan Bs, is what you're saying. I think this mark, not even I think, I'm 99.99999% certain this mark is his way of protecting her, so that if they are on opposite ends of the battlefield, like they will be in Sofos, his followers will not kill her. And then when he wins the battle, the ultimate battle at the end, because he definitely believes he will, every villain does, she will still be alive to rule with him. So it's like he's almost sparing her for a longer calculated move. Now, this also could be a different kind of calculated move where he would be able to find her at the drop of a hat and mark and track her down. To be honest, it could be both. It helps his plan A and his plan B. He's a very calculated thinker. He's also
he's had a lot of centuries to think about it all on his own.
We still don't have that confirmed.
I agree. He is marking her as his, so to speak, because he really does try to appeal to Diem multiple times to join him. So he wants to give her that chance. But Diem, not knowing this man is her father yet, is like, well, gotta go kill this guy before he hurts more people. In Diem's eyes, this powerful and strange descendant has proven he is guilty, and it's time to serve him justice to save innocent lives. That word justice keeps on coming up here whenever it comes to Diem and how she has to dish out what doesn't come naturally to her. Okay, back to being the Montios crown and the scene at hand here at the Crown's Council headquarters.
But how convenient is it that the previous Montios crown has left Diem a letter? And you bet, listeners, we're about to go line by line through this sucker. Starting with, quote, "To my heir, if you are reading this, you now bear my crown. Blessed Mother Lumnos has spoken to me of our fates, and I am at peace with the sacrifice I must make." Oh, there's that word again that keeps coming up. Sacrifice. We know that Diem will have the same sacrifice coming her way too, as the crown states, quote, "I pray you find the same peace with yours." Considering his sacrifice was dying for the cause, is being compared to whatever sacrifice Diem must make, it's just one more instance of Diem dying foreshadowing. This one's very direct. At this point, I'm going to be honest, I'm kind of kicking myself for not starting a count, and we probably would have started it at we would have started at episode 1 of Spark of the Everflame. But alas, because I do think we would be like in the 15s or even 20s right now. The late crown note is being left for 2 reasons though. One, as a plea for her to guard the people of Montios well, which is very sweet.
Besides the whole scribe-like demeanor they have to adopt in order to be virtuous, I fucking love Montios more than any other realm. They would probably banish me, though, with all of my unvirtuousness. I'd be like, thank you, I did do a job well done. I appreciate that. The late Montios king is offering Diem advice to teach his people and learn from them, which I really see this happening in Burn, with her encouraging the Montios descended to fight for this world and not kind of be holed up in their mountains, so to speak, and them teaching her about their fair ways and virtues. Not like to make her more like them, but about that honesty, fairness, and the counsel and things like that. Patience.
Patience is a big one,
I think
too.
she might be a lost cause on that one.
But there's a second reason for this letter that sends our deep dive brains spiraling. Because the late king says that he doesn't really know what this message means, but Mother Montios told him it is essential his heir heed these words. I'm quoting the full thing first, and then we're going line by line. Quote, 11 must fall for one to rise. Share the gift to pay the cost. A dying star will rekindle the spark. What is forgotten is not lost. Remember my sister's words. Beware my brother's wrath. This is a fucking sonnet at this point. This is gorgeous. But let's go through this line by line. 11 must fall for one to rise. Let's just start off with the head scratcher. I swear this line is going to be the death of me. If it was 10 must fall for one to rise, this would seem easy, because 10 realms, 10 kindred, 10, easy. Easy's 10. What is this 11th nonsense? I cannot help but assume it's the mortal religion, like the Everflame religion as a whole. And then with those 11, so the 10 realms and the mortal realm being like the collective of the Everflame, if they fall, then one Amarian will rise, like no longer divided.
So theoretically, it could be like the red-haired man who symbolizes the Everflame and the mortals there.
Yes.
What if Orly is a descendant of him and she is his representation? There is also the possibility that Diem is the 11th, because we've been talking so much about her sacrifice and her needing to die. This could be directly related to that. Or another possibility, maybe a little bit more of a crack theory, what if the Mo from Montios' diary that cut off that we've been thinking was Mother, what if that was the 11th in like more the kindred circle here, and all of them must fall for Diem to rise, and that breaks the curse?
You are whipping out an 11th kindred theory right now. I did not have this on my bingo card.
Don't know. Like, I don't, obviously I don't know. I say that, like, obviously none of us know, but Penn has told us, we've asked her questions of like poking holes about the kindred's curse and all of that, and she has been very clear that there is a huge piece to the puzzle that we do not know yet, that has not been mentioned yet, that will have a huge factor. And it's kind of one of the reasons she's been chuckling about all of the theories and stuff like that, because we do not have a main element yet. What if this was the main element?
Maybe. I really like this idea that it's Orly, and that's not just because she's going to be collecting L's like they're Pokemon cards this episode. Like, I like, you said that, and it's like my whole body got chills, and something in my gut was just like, I think you're right. So now I'm almost closing my mind off to any other possibilities because I'm like, I need that certainty.
Okay, so let's lay it all out here. So we have 9 known kindred, or in this case, the crowns of their realms. They are representing the kindred. This is already starting to play out with them falling and the crowns being given to one person. Then there is Omnos, the forgotten 10th kindred. So it's only the 11th that is truly the big mystery for us. And I do agree that it is one Amarian to rise versus it being one person. So I think that the 11th, it might be Diem, who represents both of these worlds and that balance and all of that. I kind of think it's a little bit of a crack theory with it being Orly, but sure. Like, do you want to make a bet right now about who the 11th is?
Okay, here's my, I'm not going to make a bet this specific, but this is where my mind is just like trailed off to while you were just explaining that. So every one of the crowns will die in this case. So that means, you know, which is kind of sad. Like, I like Doriel, sort of. They're pissing me off by the end of this book, but still. Like, it means all of the crowns will die, Ophiucae will die, Orly will die, for one Amarian to rise, with Diem as the balance of it. And then my brain saw her hair, like, transforming from white to that brilliant red to, like, represent her mother, and, like, all of this stuff. Like, I could so see that happening by the end, and she is the balance. But there's so much her death foreshadowing that she has to die and then be deemed worthy enough to be the balance. So then it would make sense that she's the 11th because she would have to fall, quote unquote.
I am definitely leaning toward Diem being the 11th here.
I think I am
as
too.
the representation of both worlds. Yet, that's a good point. What if she is still the one to rise?
Yeah, because she's the balance.
Yes. Huh. All
I'm
right.
not willing to make a bet yet, but
We're a little all over the place with this right now. So we'll keep going through everything. We haven't even been to Sofos yet. So this line, though, it really is something we've been talking about for so long. And it's like, it's here now. And it's like, oh my God. I think it's Diem.
I think it's Diem too.
But I also
love
think
the
that
idea.
the Amarian, I do think that the one to rise is Amarian.
I agree. I agree that it's Amarian because that just feels right.
Yeah.
Like one united Amarian. But I love this idea that it's a curveball, that it's Orly because she's the representation of the Everflame. I think that those are my two options, but I'm leaning Orly, I think.
Not the kindred mother.
I've already forgotten that character you created. Then we have the next line because we've only scratched one. Share the gift to pay the cost. Okay, this is probably the thing that Penn is referencing because there's this gift that we have no idea what it means. And I'm assuming this is one of the big things that she's like, you guys don't know. So we know that this is referring to Lumnos' message from Spark, quote, give him our gift, daughter of the forgotten. When the end has come and the blood has spilled, give our gift to my faithful heir and tell him this is my command. Fuck. Now it's sounding like Diem's the 11th and she has to die. Oh my God. So when Diem, does give this gift to the faithful heir, which we all strongly assume it's Luther, but now it's all pointing to Luther so clearly where I'm like, are we being gaslit right now? Are we supposed to look this way? Is it actually Orly? I don't know.
I don't think it's Orly.
I don't think Orly's the faithful heir. That's a great point, actually.
Those are not words that I would ever describe with her. I think it's pretty clear that it is Luther.
I think so too, but is it too? I'm Rebecca Yarosing myself right now. Like
it's the gift part. Just focus on the gift part right now.
Well, that's my question. It's shouting into the void. What the hell is this gift?
We should make a bingo card for our Kindred's Curse coverage, and one of the boxes be us spiraling over what this gift is, because it happens like every other episode. We're just driving ourselves crazy with curiosity. I also think about what Lumnos said to Luther in his bonus chapter at the temple in Umbros earlier on in Heat of the Everflame. Quote, an ancient wrong must be made right and all must pay its price. This here is that very similar language with paying the cost. I just keep coming back to Diem herself being the gift, or the gift is this magical spell of sorts that I mentioned a few episodes ago, something tied to magic. Or, you know what? Like you said, maybe this is one of the big puzzle pieces that we just don't know yet.
I also could see it being that it's her heart. Like, give my gift to the faithful heir. Like, it is give that mating bond to him.
So how would that fit into share the gift to pay the cost?
You know, when you're someone as independent as Diem and you mate yourself off to someone, it comes at a cost. You're giving up half your soul, technically, or you're making
love you,
space.
Nicole, but I think this is a little bigger than a mating bond.
Okay, the next line is, quote, a dying star will rekindle the spark. Okay, hear me out. So because this star could be connected to Ophiucae, especially given the 10-pointed star symbol, what if that is the dying star? He is the dying star. So in order to rekindle the spark that starts the Everflame, the star of Ophiucae must die. Like, the star of Ophiucae must die.
Okay, so then how would you work that into the titles of all these books? Because I really do think that it's Diem, because Spark of the Everflame, Glow of the Everflame, Heat of the Everflame, Burn of the Everflame. I think that
She's
all
the dying
comes back
spark?
to... Yes, because it feels so pointed that the spark is directly tied to the Everflame. We both agree on that, which brings it back full circle to, again, the title of the first book, Spark of the Everflame. Diem is the spark. That is when everything sets in motion. And that's not yet when Ophiucae is around yet. I'm really getting into relying on the titles of these books, but I do think that those are a big hint. That dying star just doesn't sound good for our girl. And when I think of a dying star, I think of a bright light collapsing in on itself. That is literally what a dying star is. And I keep coming back to that word of balance, where it's like it implodes in on itself. Like this opposition's just like, yeah, I don't know. You're giving me a very scared look right now.
Because I'm picturing this.
I'm not meaning literally implode. I just
no, but what happens in the visions?
Exactly.
So what if that's no? Because it wouldn't be Ophiucae dying because he's still standing there in the visions. But like, I mean, Orly's like holding Diem, like crying.
That's why I think that it is literally right. That image is right before the main vision with that blinding light. But here's a question. It seems strange for both this line and the one about sharing the gift to pay the price allude to the same things. So if the dying star is Diem, then I definitely don't think the gift is Diem. Or the gift is Diem and the dying star is, like you're saying, Ophiucae. Because I agree that feels so on point with the symbol of the 10-pointed star. But then when it comes to rekindle the spark, what if his death somehow brings Diem back to life and then she rekindles the spark of the Everflame?
I can get behind that. Or what if she dies, is deemed... like, you know, when she's judged, she's not deemed worthy, because when you're worthy, that means you're meant to pass through the gates of...
She'd be deemed worthy in a different way.
Yes, so she'd be deemed worthy basically to go back to Memorian, end Ophiucae, because maybe she'll have some extra oomph power. She'll end Ophiucae, and that is how the dying spark rekindles, the dying star, Ophiucae, in that moment, rekindles the spark.
The timeline doesn't work there.
Why?
Because the dying star is what...
Oh, I see what you're saying. It would be 2 dying stars. So it'd be the dying stars rekindle the spark. So yeah, maybe that doesn't work. Anyway, but then we have the next line. What is forgotten is not lost. We've talked about this a lot, so I'll keep this one brief. I can't help but going back to those 2 forgottens. The forgotten 10th kindred is not lost, although he is very much found this episode. And of course, the red-haired man under the Everflame tree. He is very much lost.
So I also think about what is forgotten is not lost in terms of history. Because we think about what the kindred intended with the world that they created. With, yes, the descended protecting the mortals, but both of the peoples really living in harmony. And now that sentiment has been forgotten over the generations. And this is why the kindred are so upset and they are wanting this big change. That is what Diem is on this earth to do. So I think that this, what is forgotten is not lost, is directly relating to what is forgotten, what is the purpose of this world that the kindred left for, that the kindred intended. It is not lost, and it is being refound here, and it will be, in so many words, reset in a new and different way.
Oh, I love that. Yes, yes, yes. I have nothing to add. That was perfect. Next, remember my sister's words. Beware my brother's wrath. Honestly, thank God this is the easiest one of them all, because this is Lumnos's words, as she's the only sister who has spoken to Diem directly. And the brother's wrath, at least at the moment, Diem and Luther believe is Umbros because of what happened. And honestly, that's a very fair assumption. But as we know, or at least we can strongly assume, this is instead Omnos, aka Ophiucae. Again, I seriously don't know a world in which Omnos is not Ophiucae. If that happens, I'm going to need Taylor, my therapist assistance. Okay, this is now the second time Diem's patience gets in the way. After she went into the forging magic and got the mark from Ophiucae, Diem is like, I have to go kill him now! Which is a fair statement. But remember, she has no magic. Luther just got his unlocked, but he's still drained. They are not equipped for this.
But she does say, give me your magic to the Montios descendant. So she knows she needs to get the magic now and then go get him. Though you are right with that, like, hurry, hurry, hurry attitude. But I don't fault her for this one. Yeah, that's okay. I totally approve of her hurriedness here.
Somebody keep going, and we'll see where my stance lands. As Counselor Hepta states, they need to come up with a plan together to discuss this. Counselor Hepta is like, where's my plan B? I need my plan B. The Council of Montios, they are used to making decisions together. And just by the vibe of Montios, I also feel like they are not hurry, hurry, hurry people. They are very patient. They do take time to think about things from all stands. And Diem is in her I know what's right attitude right now.
I think that the Montios, because this is all kind of happening in their realm, they feel a sense of responsibility with it. And Diem has been on this mission completely separate from Montios. So for them to be like, hey, we got to talk about this together, she's like, what are you talking about? I've been on the solo mission for a long time. Now I have new information. Now I need to go.
So on that same note, I guess my stance lands in I can't necessarily get mad at Diem. I am just going to, just with a neon sign, point out that she is again in that I know best, it needs to happen now attitude. Ophiucae's attacks have killed hundreds just thus far, maybe even thousands of people, especially when we include Umbros. And Diem is unwilling to wait any longer than she has to because he could attack on another realm instantly without a second thought. So luckily, Diem and the council find a compromise. For a whole day, the descendant of Montios all pour their magic into Diem until everyone in Montios is drained. And the coolest part, she's not even filled yet. That is insane. Then Diem and co wait another day should Montios get attacked so that they could defend a city. That makes total sense. And luckily, it didn't happen. But damn, Diem's patience is waiting.
Also, we have to think about the timeline with this story, though. Only 3 days ago, he attacked Umbros. When she was in Umbros, she was learning more about the Miros attacks and things like that.
Was it 3 days ago?
Yes.
Jesus.
So everything in this story is happening so flippin' fast. And so I can sense, I would be the exact same way, sensing, oh my God, like, it's literally like, you wait a day and he will attack another city.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I would have that exact same, I call it impatience, but I don't think of it so much as impatience. I think of it as stressed out and anxious, hurry, 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 because time is literally running out.
As someone who lives most of her life in that state, despite not going up against Ophiucae, I can see where you're coming from, yes.
I am very surprised at how
maybe
much crap you're giving Diem here when you are as bad as she is. This week alone, I have had to call you out on not having to send something that was not due for another week. And even with all that magic getting pumped into DME, it still isn't enough to fill her magic, which is going to be a problem considering Luther is also not at full power yet. It brings me back to this realization that Diem has so much magic here, but Ophiucae has more. Like, wow. While this is frustrating for Diem, it's also a lesson she needed to learn one way or another. Nicole, do you hear that? You need to learn this lesson too. Being new to magic, Diem is inefficient and sloppy, burning through her magic too quickly. She needs to learn how to pace herself and not burn out and make her magic last longer for this war ahead, like the marathon of life. I love you.
Done?
Yes, I'm done. I don't have to be done, but I can be done.
If you are wondering what kind of plan Diem has concocted in these near 48 hours that she had to wait back in Montios, the plan is go kill Ophiucae. That is the plan. Oh dear.
Okay, well, here I am defending her again. She doesn't know the situation she'll be walking into. Like, neither do the Montios Crown's Council either. So I do agree that she is not able to form a more concrete plan in this instance. This descended man is just very much of a mystery. And step one is to figure out, like, just how to make this happen, and they have to go approach it too. And then once when they do get there, they do start figuring out how to target him, how to do all of that. So yeah. But let's talk about these mysterious forgotten lands and its magic. The second that Diem dismounts her horse, a rush of energy surges into her body as she steps foot on her home realm soil for the first time. Now note, there is no special magic here because she already has that within her. Very, very different from the other realms here. But of course that makes sense because Omnos was not part of the 4G magic that created all of these rules that the descended magic adheres to. Diem's godhood is going wild. It likes this bleak, gloomy place. The voice of the realm is demanding, claim me, daughter of the forgotten. And Diem can feel how this land remembers the wrongs done to it, and it's waiting to claim its due. It makes me think about these ancient wrongs that must be righted that has been mentioned, and beware of the kindred brothers' wrath. But while Diem's magic is growing stronger and bolder, feeding off the land itself, Luther can feel the land sucking his magic out and down into the soil. His aura is sputtering as if the foraging magic is fighting to bring it back within its grasp. It's like the land is fucking with Luther and Diem. She can even hear a low, distant chuckle in her ear. Oh my god. I bet this is Ophiucae recognizing that they are on his land, and he's making the foraging magic attack Luther, and he's literally just getting a kick out of it, right? Okay, so question. Do we think all the kindred could absorb magic originally, and this is a byproduct of Omnos' realm not properly being part of the foraging magic, with how Diem is able to absorb the magic and how it is draining Luther's magic? Or was this magic stealing, as Doriel will call what Diem and Ophiucae can do, only something Omnos had, and this is very specific to this realm in particular? So if it was like this, I think about how Omnos would have been able to absorb the magical abilities of his brothers and sisters, hence why he alone was called Omnos, meaning all in Latin. I'm just so curious about how Diem, him, and this land are able to steal magic. And I am leaning toward it being an Omnos thing. Like maybe that is his magical power.
I think I'm right there with you. I think the more and more we learn about this kindred, silvery light, because the silvery light is kindred. That I feel like we've gotten almost confirmed. Have we forgotten about the Godstone breaking last episode where she shined in silvery light and then it was like the balance? But this is different because she doesn't glow silver. Well, no, she does glow silver when she steals magic, though. I don't know.
Okay. Since Ophiucae can absorb magic from the land like Diem, I bet this is how he is getting so much power so fast. He's recharging from his own land. I also wonder if Diem will be able to push her magic back within this land and bring it back to life. Like, I could see that happening in Burn. Or maybe she will heal this land and it will eventually be where some mortals choose to build their lives. Like, I do believe that there will be a lot more integration between the mortals and the descended, but I could see the mortals kind of carving out this area here for themselves. But when Diem dips into the foraging magic here in the Forgotten Lands, it feels abandoned and decayed. And while it's within Montios' borders, it's angrily disconnected, as if rejecting the realm and trying to rip itself free. But it's too late to turn back now. There's too much at stake, and they don't really have anywhere else to go either. They can't go back to Lumnos, and Diem's pissed off most of the other crowns, so hiding out with them is not an option. So they creep up toward this Guardian camp, which seems pretty well established and settled in. And there's a common theme about the Guardians who are here. They did not like Orly's way of things and wanted more violence against the descended. Yep, checks out, and of course fucking Vance is here. Despite everything Diem has told her mother about Vance, Orly is still surprised to see him here. While they may have had their disagreements, the two of them worked closely together for decades in the Guardians. Remember that they started right around the same time. Orly trusted Vance enough to put him in command after she left. But when she disappeared from leadership, he had no problem stepping in as Father Vance and taking charge his way. And Orly is now only catching up to this truth, now that she can see it with her own eyes as he gives his speech about hate and violence.
Then a glowing man walks into the clearing, and suddenly there's a spike in his aura. Even for Diem, she's barely able to manage a struggling breath with his magic saturating the air.
Yep, this is definitely the man from their visions on the newspaper image, all right.
And the cocky bastard isn't even shielding, leaving Diem a clean shot from where they are standing.
Do you think he's glowing because he's consistently absorbing magic? Or is he always glowing, especially now that he's back at full strength? And so when he had no strength, that was why he was all gray, like Orly saw in the Careel prison chamber.
I'm leaning towards the latter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
Because if he's always absorbing magic, we're fucked. fucked.
That's true. Although when he will be like absorbing the shield around Sofos, he will be glowing brighter. So
True.
I think that it is a direct implication about his strength in that moment, but it doesn't have to constantly be absorbing it.
I
Yeah,
agree.
Good point.
I agree. A strange kind of coldness takes over Diem as she crafts a bow and arrow made of shadow magic. Oh, so cool. Not the callous numbness that she felt back in Fortos last episode when she killed the king or the commander, but instead something more bizarre. She says it feels like an anticipatory regret, like some part of her is already grieving this choice and its consequences. It's a nice little nod to us readers about how she's literally about to try to kill her father. But Diem is certain in this choice, again, unknowing who this man is to her. Ophiucae has killed hundreds, if not thousands, in no regard for guilt or innocence. And that is not including whatever he did with these missing children. Where the fuck are they? Because they're not here in the scene. Anyway, he's just a...
What if they are where the Gryvern has been all this time?
I think that's so sweet that you... So you're...
They're not dead. I don't think these children are
I don't
dead.
think they're dead. I don't think they're well. I don't think they're in great standing. So, with his back to Diem, she knocks an arrow and lines up her shot, aiming to hit his spine just right below his nape. And her godhood stirs. It's not supportive nor judgmental. It's more just watching, holding its breath, waiting to see if Diem can prove her mettle once and for all.
She may have this anticipatory grief, but she is also certain in her choice of what must be done. This man deserves to die. He has killed hundreds, if not thousands, and will continue to do so if she does not stop him here and now.
So right as Diem releases the arrow, Orly's like, stop, Diem, no! But it's too late. Carried by a burst of her power, the arrow flies straight through to the soft, vulnerable spot on the back of his neck. He's dead! All the problems are solved! Book over. No, it's not that easy. After the arrow impales Ophiucae, it simply disappears. It doesn't bounce off or fall to the ground. Nope, he fucking absorbs it, causing his supernatural glow to flare brighter and his aura to pulse with new strength. Seeing this man's skin glow brightly with a new magic, Luther knows exactly what that means. How many times does he see Diem's skin do the exact same thing when she absorbs magic?
And she recognizes the truth of it too by seeing that he is just like her. It's like the puzzle pieces are falling into place even before Ophiucae addresses her, but she's just like, no, this is not possible. No way.
But Luther sees this for exactly what it is. He's like, it's time to get the fuck out of here. As Lexi said, Diem and even Orly are both completely frozen in place, which gives the man an opportunity to address them. First, he has not seen Orly in 20-ish years unless he did indeed register her presence on the island of Kirill when she was going back into his cave just to tell her brain that he was indeed dead. Remember when we asked Penn during our final episode of Spark if he knew Orly was there, and she said he was basically on the brink of death, so it's really a toss-up. But the last time he really interacted with Orly, she stabbed him with a godstone blade and then ran away with his one and only salvation, Diem, a salvation that he now finally gets to meet. Diem, his daughter, the forgotten blood that fell on the Heartstone, thus rescuing him. He can finally say hello. But that's it. Luther, seeing both Diem and Orly in states of shock, knowing that there's no way in hell they'll be able to fight their way out with this guy, practically throws Orly on her horse, shoves Diem onto his own, takes both reins, and rides away. My dude, well done. He knows they need more of a plan. Just... period. End of sentence. That is Luther's whole state of being, this third part of Heat. This power that this man has that only he's seen Diem have, this is a game changer. Previously to this moment, Diem has been so out of this world powerful in every sense of the word. But now there's this new player who makes Diem's I win every round streak not look like it's gonna continue.
And not only that, he is her sire. But in the hours after, she will think, I tried to kill my father. That difference between father and sire are really big, especially to Diem. In this moment, she has to consciously remind herself that he is her sire, not father. Like she is corrected so many people previously, when they were referring to her birth father, she's like, no, that is my sire. Now she is stuck in this mindset of father, and then she's having to correct herself. But now that she knows that he's alive and he's just like her, she can't help but feel a kinship with him and still recognize that she's the only one who can go up against him and has to be stopped unless she can change his heart. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. After safely outrunning the Guardians, yay for being on horseback, and changing direction to head towards Sofos instead of going back to Montios to regroup, it is time for Orly to finally open up. She's in just as much of a state of shock as Diem because she really did think that she killed Ophiucae. She was not lying there. She stabbed him through the heart with a godstone blade. And now a truth that she has held onto for 20 years is not true. Remember back at the epilogue of Spark when she was like really nervous and she crept up and called down into the chamber and she's like, no, like he's dead, like he's dead. It is really this thing that has haunted her for so long. And that is a truth that he is dead that she has been able to cling to as fact. And now with this new revelation, Diem needs to know all of the secrets. She needs to know the whole story. She has needed to for a long time, but now more so than ever, with Ophiucae in the mix, this information has never been more important.
All right, sit down, friends, it's story time. Orly served many, many years in the army before Diem was born. This is when she trained not only to be a healer, but also be a spy. They recruited her very young, but Orly wanted to do something important with her life, and the army convinced her that she could do just that by serving the crowns. She saw this as the chance of a lifetime to get a poor mortal girl out of poverty. During her time as a spy, Orly spied on the Guardians mostly, but occasionally would be sent to a powerful descendant's house with a fetish for mortal women, or a well-connected family who needed a mortal healer for their children. But even when she was spying on Descended, it always led back to the rebels in the end. What I would give for this novella. This is fascinating. When Diem confronts her on breaking her healer's vow, though, Orly agrees that, yes, it is sacred, but she never spied on a patient. I don't know about that. And that the healer's vow is to always save as many lives as they can. And that's what's been her guiding moral compass. She believes that she did just that at the palace, and it was all in service of that vow. Orly acknowledges that she may have made mistakes. That's putting it mildly, but she's always done what she believed was right at the time, especially in a world where right and wrong are not always so easily distinguished.
And Diem certainly has her own opinions about that, because as we saw in Spark, she agonized over breaking her healer vows in a similar way. She was not spying on the patients themselves per se, but she was still breaking their trust. Like when we think about House Bennett, she was not spying on the little girl, but she used the little girl to go get information. I bet you anything, her mother was doing all of that, and here her mother is like, well, that wasn't a problem. And Diem was so upset with herself and was so disappointed in herself and what her mother would think. And now we find out Orly does not feel the same moral dilemma despite everything she has taught Diem over the years. That is really key, what she has taught Diem over the years. And now she's essentially going back on that, but still trying to explain it within those boundaries. And Diem's like, no, this is not how this works, Mom.
Orly's told herself a lot of things that she has believed and made herself to believe as truth in order to justify doing certain things.
Yep.
That sometimes require her bending quite a bit of truth, and we'll be talking about that more in a second. Orly was good at being a spy, to the point that she earned the notice of the Fortos king, but she was also simultaneously building relationships with the Guardians as she began to agree with their ideals. So one day, she broke down and told the Guardians the truth, and the leader at the time asked her to use her position in the Amarian army to spy on them instead, which she accepted. She kept the Guardians ahead of the army's movements and passed along false information to waste the king's time. She wasn't concerned about the king finding out because, honestly, she was doing a lot of things that could get her killed. This was just one of them.
This is quite the revelation for Diem. Oh my gosh, I've been saying that word so many times this episode. I apologize. And as surprised as Diem is, she's also seeing how much sense this makes about her mother in hindsight. And jumping ahead a little, Orly explains that when it came to her relationship with Andre, she never told him about the Guardians or about her past as a spy. The two of them focused on their future together instead of on the past. They had this unconditional trust in each other and understood that there were things that they could not tell the other. So I absolutely agree with this up until the guardian leader part. Both Orly and Andre, they led tough lives in the Amarian army, and we can only imagine some of the things that Andre has had to go through. He does not want to relive that. He does not like to glorify the old days, and Orly obviously doesn't like to share about her past either, so they have this agreement, and I actually really do admire that in them. It's once when Orly is the leader of the Guardians for the past 10 years, that's not looking in the past. That is the present and risking their future as well. While I can absolutely see why she did not tell her husband, after all, the Guardians don't even tell their family members, as we've learned, I do think it was a lot of Orly holding on to their agreement of not needing to tell the other of their pasts. She used their old rules and agreement to benefit her in the present. Though to be fair, we have to look at Andre's side of things here. Orly believes that he had his suspicions, so he could have brought it up with her at any time. No matter what, at the end of the day, these two loved each other dearly. They did not dwell on the secrets or lies, whether it was in the past or the present, because all that mattered in their relationship was their love for one another. This secretive mindset of Orly's hasn't just applied to her marriage. It's how she's approached her entire life that she has built. She has kept these secrets from her family to protect them. She says everything she does is for her family, and I do think she believes that. But it's a web of secrets and, yes, lies, as she has this viewpoint of knowing best. She used to be a spy. She's now the rebel leader. Secrets are second nature for her, and their necessity makes her find comfort in them. But back to Orly's backstory. One day, the Fortos king approached Orly for a mission of the highest secrecy. You see, he heard rumors that the rebels had found a way onto Kareel, and he wanted her to hide there alone for 1 year to find out what they were doing. 1 year because, like Luther, the king of Fortos snuck Orly onto the island on Forging Day, and he returned 1 year later for the next Forging Day to pick her up. Orly knew from her guardian connections that these rumors were false, but she couldn't turn it down without raising suspicion. Plus, this was a priceless opportunity since no mortal has been allowed on the island for centuries. And I definitely think it's where she got the idea to go to Kareel for the Guardians and have Luther take her on Forging Day. She knew it was possible because she had already done it. At first, she thought it was just some loophole in his authority. The king of Fortos smuggled her onto the island and did not want anyone else to know that she was there, including the other crowns. So she was ordered to stay hidden from the army's ships patrolling from the sea. He even gave Orly a godstone knife to take with her, and that's when she realized he suspected a crown was helping the rebels and that he hoped she would catch them in the act and kill them. Pause, because do you think maybe the Arboro's queen was helping the mortals, and that is how this rumor started?
Now I do. Now I do.
Yeah!
Yeah. Actually, wait, fuck. I love that. That's so good. Oh my God. When Orly got to the island, she began exploring and stumbled upon a hidden door near the temple. It was nearly invisible, grown over with weeds, and to this day, she does not know why she did what she did next. Orly called out and asked if hello, is anyone there? But why would anyone be inside, especially if this is the most secure place in Amarian? And especially because the door had looked like it hadn't been opened in generations. Even if someone had been there, there was no way they would still be alive, right? But then a voice answered back. He sounded so scared, and when she told him she was immortal, he began weeping. Side note, this is yet another reason why Orly's trust is near impossible to gain. I think after this experience of being played by Ophiucae and then him massively turning that around, I get why she's so distrusting of people, especially Luther. Like, I'll call that out. So Ophiucae claimed that he had been imprisoned for helping the rebels. Don't know if I believe that. And was left there to die, but he managed to survive on rodents and rainwater. And he begged Orly to help him escape. And she stayed. She couldn't walk away. But the hinges were rusted iron, so she was able to break them open. The man she found on the other side barely looked like a human. He was frail, thin, and his skin was gray, not pale, gray, like his body had been drained of color. Again, this is me waving my hands. This is very important.
Ooh, real quickly, do you think that Diem, while she is on Kareel, her skin will start to drain because she does not have access to her magic in the same way? Or do you think that was specifically because he was within the Godstone Temple?
I'm leaning specifically because he was in the Godstone Chamber that they created.
And they did not make her do that. That was like Doriel's
that was the
thing.
nice
that was
thing.
like,
yeah,
you gotta go in there, and Diem's like, please no. And Doriel's like, okay, but you still have to stay on the island.
I'm really glad that didn't happen. I think it was because he was both inside the Godstone, because Godstone, yes, he's probably able to destroy it, but because he's on Kirill, maybe he can't?
We know that when Diem touches Godstone, she feels this sense of temper and things like that. And I'm not saying that he's like this because of the Godstone, because we know that's not true. But I'm just saying,
it.
Yes.
And then he learned to feed off of that anger and energy for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So no wonder he's traipsing across the continent. That does not excuse his actions. But this is what I love about a villain backstory. It gives you their reasons behind being the way that they are. And I think it's so important. Ophiucae was locked up with Godstone chains, and nothing Orly did could break them open. But she had 1 year ahead of her, so she kept trying. In the meantime, she brought Ophiucae fresh food and water and kept him company. Ophiucae was unlike anyone she'd ever met. The simplest stories would fascinate him. Makes sense. He hasn't been outside this room in like hundreds of years.
And he is getting information about the Amarian now.
Oh, this guy's so creepy. And he spoke of his dreams to change their world for the better. He was charming and she was lonely. It wasn't long until Orly started developing feelings for him, and she fell fast and hard. With no way to make the contraceptive tonic on the island, Orly tried her best to resist, but he was so eager. And within a few short weeks, they were already bang, bang, bangity banging. And soon after, Orly became pregnant. Ophiucae was extremely happy about this pregnancy. It was all he could think about. He would lay for hours with his head against Orly's belly, listening for Diem's heartbeat or feeling her kicks. He told Orly that he had been dreaming of Diem for years. Yes, years of being trapped in the prison with only dreams of someday being freed via this forgotten blood, his now offspring's blood. But his personality, while he was happy, it changed immensely. He became obsessed with the revenge he spoke of, killing off the descended and instilling himself as king. This is concerning. And he became extremely possessive of Orly. When she left the cell, he would make her vow on Diem's life that she would come back. He was so paranoid that she might leave for good, no matter how much she reassured him that she wouldn't. As we get into this next section, please know that we are going to be talking about domestic violence, so please listen to your comfort level.
One day, when near the end of her pregnancy, Orly tried to go outside against his wishes, and Ophiucae became violent, refusing to let her leave, but she was able to escape. For weeks, Orly slept outside in the cold, listening to him plead to her to come back. He apologized and said his captivity made him unwell, and he swore that he loved her and he would never do it again. But Orly stayed away. She was afraid of him. And yet she was more scared of what might happen if she tried to give birth on her own. And all of this stress sent her into early labor. And then when the blood sun rose at dawn, it felt like a sign that if she made the wrong choice, she might lose Diem forever. I want to pause real quickly because blood sun, divine intervention, sort of, or at least like a divine sign, saying that today's the day for the one that they've been waiting for to enter this world. And also, Orly says that she prayed to the old gods. She was praying to the old gods on Kirill, where the Everflame used to be, where her daughter was to be born. I don't know if this has extra weight to it, but maybe.
She prayed to the old gods to protect them both before she went back down into the cell and told Ophiucae that Diem was coming. After hearing this, Ophiucae became just like his old self again. He made no demands and he did everything Orly asked. Can you imagine walking someone through your own giving of birth? Like, no, that sounds terrifying. When Diem finally made her appearance, Ophiucae was overjoyed, and Orly really believed he had changed.
Yay, baby Diem is born. And it seemed like Ophiucae loved his little family, and he insisted that Orly leave the chamber to get some fresh air once when she was healed enough to walk. Though right after she left, Orly knew in her heart that something was wrong. So she crept back into the cell and, oh my god, she saw Ophiucae holding the Godstone blade over Diem's tiny heart. Bad, this is bad. So she confronts him to, stop the blade from hurting her newborn.
That's when Ophiucae tells her something very interesting. He tells her about the Heartstone and how he needs Diem's blood to unlock his chains.
What an excuse for how she got red-handed. Which, I'm not surprised that she's like, yeah, and he was saying these crazy things, and Yeah.
Yeah, I would also be like, the fuck you are. I don't believe any of this. Now, we don't know exactly what tone he told her in. Like, was it evil villain monologue style, or was it desperate man trying to explain himself? Like, call me crazy, but I do really feel like it matters. If it was evil villain style, I absolutely see Ophiucae meaning to fully kill Diem and pour her blood on the stones. How he would get there because he's chained up, I have no idea, but I don't think he was really thinking clearly, not when his freedom was this close. But if it was a desperate man trying to explain himself, like, then maybe he wasn't fully going to kill her. But I also feel like over her tiny little heart is not looking like a little nick of the wound.
Yes, I agree with that too. There is another factor that I hate to say because I swear I'm not defending Ophiucae, but this is also Orly's story. And if we know anything about books, characters are not always a reliable narrator. So this could be her interpretation as a terrified mother with a knife near her baby. I don't think that is the actual situation, but I have to point it out. So what if Ophiucae tries to explain himself to Diem if she confronts him about trying to kill her? And he's like, no, I just wanted to use your blood and break free so we could rule the world together. Okay, so as I say that rule the world together, saying it out loud, he told Orly how he wanted to be king and rule over everyone. I do not see him letting there be someone else in existence as powerful as him, or almost as powerful as him. He needs her blood. That's what he needs from her. Yeah. Unless he thought Diem was not a threat because she didn't look like him when she came out of the womb. So maybe he didn't know that she would have all of this power. I don't know. Like, I think that in his mind, he was doing what he had to do to get enough blood. Or maybe once when he broke free, he expected to heal baby Diem, though he still wouldn't have had his own magic on the island. So yeah, never mind. I think he was prioritizing getting blood and not whether he was killing or not killing his child.
I think you're right. I definitely think you're right. But luckily, Orly didn't stick around to find out. Nope, she grabbed Diem, stabbed Ophiucae in the heart. Honestly, you're about to get a lot of L's, Orly. I give you a W for this. And then she runs away, believing that he died from the Godstone wound, which honestly, fair.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense.
How interesting that somebody gets stabbed in the heart with a Godstone blade.
On Kareel.
And then survives it.
How fascinating!
Together with Diem's information about the stone in the Kindred's temple, that the crowns shed their blood on for every ritual, and that something went wrong with her coronation, this mother and daughter realize that Ophiucae was trapped in the Godstone chamber for these past 20 years. Which means, like we talked about in our final episode of Spark, that Orly and Ophiucae were indeed on the island at the same time most recently. She even gathered up the courage to call out to him, though she of course thought that he was dead. No one answered because we know from our phone to Penn that he was barely alive and not really cognitively there. This is a terrifying and eerie realization for Orly. Her second time living for a year on this island, haunted by his ghost. It turns out that he was alive, trapped down there the whole time. I would be so traumatized, both on the island when I was there and feeling that ghost of him, and now with this realization of him being alive the whole time.
Yeah. So now we know Orly's whole backstory, which means it's time to get into it. Why did she keep this monumental secret from Diem for so long? For this next section, I am going to do my absolute best to put on my Orly hat. I don't have a full-blown clown getup. I'm so sorry. And see things through Orly's point of view. And try, emphasis on try, to really look through her eyes as she explains her reasoning. Because fairly so, Diem confronts her mother about why she didn't tell her or tell her, and she kept these secrets and put her family at risk. Let's start with the biggest, most obvious reasons that we've been discussing on the pod. Everything Orly would have told them about her role as a spy, Diem's true nature, just Ophiucae in general. If anyone discovered those things, they would be in danger, and not even just danger, dead. They would be killed on sight. So her ultimate why for keeping the secret from them is to keep her family safe. And like we've mentioned, it makes sense. We get it. Especially because of another reason about why she kept them in the dark. Orly doesn't trust people. Again, understandably, given what happened with Ophiucae and just her having spent so much of her life as a spy. She's so used to secrets. It's the first option of her mind right before she thinks about telling someone the truth. But neither of these reasons are what Orly gives here. Instead, this is her reasoning for not telling Diem. Number 1, Diem, you didn't want to know. After all, there were so many moments when Orly obviously slipped. I do wonder if this was an obvious slip, though, only to her, aka an ex-spy, and not to the normal person. When those slips happened, Diem just looked the other way. So Orly told herself that subconsciously her daughter didn't want to know. Ergo, Orly wouldn't tell Diem something she didn't want to hear. The second reason she gives, I can't fucking believe we're talking about this again. Diem never asked questions. And I'm actually going to amend that statement. She never asked the right questions. Again, when Orly slipped, she was ready for Diem to ask these right questions and demand answers. But her daughter never did. Which actually, Diem points out isn't true.
Exactly. I don't think Orly would have ever admitted to it unless the evidence was literally right there in front of her. In fact, Diem even had to convince her to tell the story now, after she is queen of 3 realms and just came face to face with her father. And she did ask questions throughout her childhood, just apparently not the right ones.
Ow! Ow! I can't hold it in! Ow! Oh my god!
I don't think for a second that Orly would have shared it, even if Diem ever asked the supposed right questions. We even got a glimpse into Orly's POV about her secret keeping in her Glow epilogue, where she admitted to herself that someday the truth would have to come out because Diem was not going to age and it would become obvious she was not immortal. But in the meantime, Orly was so dead set on gotta keep drugging her and gotta keep her in the dark at all costs. She is gaslighting her daughter right here, and I do not use that word lightly. And I think she's convincing herself that she would have shared the secret under the right circumstances, when everything we know about Orly says otherwise. I'm going to give her another L here. We're just going to freely be given the L's in this section.
So let's talk about this Orly reasoning, because when Diem did ask, apparently not right, but questions about where her mother was going or what she was doing, Orly gave her easy, sometimes insensible answers, and Diem just accepted them. So in Orly's mind, she sees that as yet again that reaffirmation that Diem doesn't want to know the truth. And if she did want to know, Diem would keep asking questions, and Orly, according to her, was prepared to fess up. Another L, third L in 2 minutes, basically. Because if I am putting myself in her shoes, this logic makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. So instead, I'm going to call out at least what I believe her logic is. And I think, Lexi, you kind of touched on it, but I want to lay it full bare. For years, Orly had to justify keeping the secret from her family. The truth is, they did deserve to know. And as she will learn, they paid the price for just how in the dark Orly left them. But by justifying her own choices, by putting responsibility on unknown parties for not asking the right questions, it lessened, I'm sure, some of the internal guilt she held on from holding on to the secret. I am holding in so much anger right now. This is mild compared to what I used to do. But it can all be boiled down to this. Orly, 3 L's. I'm giving you a smiting L for how you handled this conversation.
Exactly. I don't fault Orly for trying to keep Diem's real heritage a secret as a whole, because it would mean her daughter's death, absolutely. And that was her number 1 priority. As a mom, I completely get that. We would do anything to protect our children. However, her daughter did ask her questions, and Orly chose to continually lie. She drugged her daughter to hide what she was, even from herself.
Yeah, that's something we barely touched on. She also does not admit to, I drugged you for 10 years. That wasn't very, I can't even Imagine if that was also part of this conversation.
When Diem was 10 years old, and even a few years after that, I can see why Orly would want to withhold the truth. Her daughter was not ready. She was too young. But this is your 20-year-old adult daughter, who Orly still treats like a 10-year-old, with calling her a little girl and treating her like she's so naive and innocent and doesn't know anything, and let the adults handle this, even when she is a descended crown. So yes, Orly should have told her at least a few years ago, especially because Diem has asked a million times about the flame route she had to take and who her real father was and about the illness that she had and all of those kinds of things. Orly gaslit her daughter into thinking she was the crazy one for the past 10 years. And now she is still gaslighting Diem when the truth comes out. If she apologized in this moment and was vulnerable about her fears, it's not quite forgivable, but it is on the path to redemption. But no, Orly is literally digging her heels in the sand and turning it back on Diem and blaming her daughter for all of this, which Diem does not put up with, thank God. Good for you, girl. Because she's like, if I did look the other way all those years, it's because I trusted you as my mother. We talked so much about Diem's trust in Orly all throughout our Spark coverage. It was one of the first things we referred to for why Diem was so delulu. It was why I gave her such low ratings on the delulu scale, because of how conditioned she was and how much she trusted her mother to believe what she was being told about herself and about her life. Why wouldn't a daughter believe what her loving mother told her, especially for these two who were so close? Her mother taught her to be a healer. Like, they were very, very close. And Diem looked up to her so much. Orly took advantage of her daughter's trust and love, and now telling Diem it's her fault for not thinking beyond what she was told is honestly a slap in the face to her daughter. So, understandably furious with her mother and needing some space, Diem runs into Luther at a nearby tree. Aw, she just needs her boy to cheer her up in more than one way.
You know what is the best distraction from mommy issues? Hand jobs! Diem and Luther crash into each other, Luther pinning her to a tree, his fingers going right into the deep end. But in this carnal distraction where both of them are basically edging each other into oblivion, just like Penn has been edging us for 2 whole books, with each start of that clenching crest of an orgasm, their movements would slow until their breaths calmed down just to get them worked up again. Jesus. Until finally, Diem can't take it anymore. She needs him, but Luther is like, no. And given what just happened a few moments ago, I think that's rather smart. But his reasoning is much more romantic. Their first time together will not be against a tree where Diem just needs a distraction, because he will not just be another fuck for her. Instead, quote, "This is just a taste of what I have planned for you. Our night is coming, and when it does, I'll be the last first time you ever have." Oh, it's so cute. I love this man. The realization isn't just like kicking your legs up in the air while hand fucking each other. It's also a reminder for Diem, because maybe she thought she needed a distraction from her anger at her mother. But what she actually sought Luther out for was a reminder that she wasn't facing this problem alone. Oh, not anymore. Diem is incredibly independent. It makes sense why she originally thought shouldering this all by herself, she would trudge over to Luther to get a distraction. But this is a partnership. And I love that she's seeing the best parts of what this type of leaning on one another truly is. Truly, that is one of the best parts about finding your person. The other best part? Orgasms, which literally Diem and Luther are seconds away from achieving together. One more stroke and
Get the hell away from her!
I'm gonna flip a table, I swear to God.
Shit, this is awkward. Okay, I'm gonna put ourselves in Orly's shoes here. She specifically told Luther when they worked together that he better not ever talk or get close to her daughter. I'm guessing it's because he would figure out she was half descended. And there's what Luther has thought. She might be worried her daughter would be taken with him, and he's a descended prince. And that was a big no-no when she shielded Diem from knowing anything about the Descended. We also can't forget that Luther has threatened Orly and her family before. Yes, the threats were empty, but still, Orly innately does not trust the Descended, even him who she worked with. Plus, Diem still has not told her mother about her and Luther. They've been traveling for a little while now, and several comments that are playful have been made, but Orly doesn't have that context to know that they are jokes. She does not trust Luther's intentions, plain and simple. She thinks that he wants to be the crown. He was supposed to be the crown. Orly is thinking exactly what Diem thought about Luther for most of Glow. So I can't fault her for that. And of course, she still thinks of her daughter as her little girl who was supposed to marry Henry. Orly is, in other words, living in the past and has not played catch up yet. And again, is not willing to.
I'm just going to throw in another GFDA here. But anyway, Orly hears the 3 words she never wanted to hear. Quote, I love him. No! Also, L for you, Orly, because your second words out of your mouth are, but what about Henry? This is literally the fantasy version of you're dating someone and the parent is like, but what about that Fallon girl? I loved her. Shouts to my Gilmore Girls friends. But
what are you
then,
talking about?
No. But then she brings up how much Henry has been in love with Diem for years. Again, this is Orly's Mother Gothel, mother knows best. And that everything's the same as it was when she left almost a year ago.
And that Diem being Descended doesn't change things when it changed everything between her and Henry. Never forget, Henry tried to draw a dagger on Diem when he first saw her as a Descended queen. And he sort of kind of openly admitted that everything changed after she did become the Descended queen.
He said she's dead to him.
Yes, yes.
Last episode.
But of course, Orly does not see Diem like that, and she cannot imagine her and Henry as anything but the closest of close.
Way to make Luther also just feel terrible. Like, I know that's not even a thought in her mind right now, but my poor guy is just getting dunked on so hard this episode. Now, Orly believes deep down that Luther is working against Diem for the crown, making her fall for him and swoon for his own gain. Sounds a hell of a lot like Ophiucae. So she believes, in that Orly knows best way, that she is actually protecting Diem from making the same mistake she did with the Descended man. Descended in air quotes there. But she also believes her daughter, who has always seen the best in people, is naive and doesn't know what Luther is truly like.
Orly, you have the excuse of having to play catch up from the past 8 months, but you are refusing to see what is right in front of you because you are living in the past.
And after all, Diem, Orly is your mother, and family always comes first.
Oh dear. Before getting into Diem's very valid response, I want to highlight why Orly is saying that family comes first and her job is to protect Diem. From her perspective, she thinks that what she's doing is for her family. I don't even know how to defend her with that though. Kind of like Henry, with this mindset of being part of the Guardians, and the bigger purpose is to create a better life for the mortals, for their loved ones and their futures. And yes, they absolutely do believe that is their whole drive with being part of the Guardians. But Orly has put the Guardians first over her family time and time again. We'll find out from Teller in the Burn preview chapters that she'll say she put Teller in the Descended school for him and for the Guardians and for Diem. But let's be honest, we know what that driving factor was. It was for the Guardians and collecting information against the Descended. Yet when she was on the island, she kept thinking about her family and missing them. She's had 8 months to focus on her family and convince herself that what she's been doing was all for them and for a better life. Orly had to do this for her mentality, for her drive. This is what she has held on to as her truth, as warped as it is. And yes, the lies that she has peddled to her daughter all her life have been to protect Diem, like we've all said and what we know. She has shielded Diem from the world and the truth, and shielded the world from Diem to keep her alive. But Diem has grown up. She's facing reality now, and it is in a far more difficult way than whatever would have happened before if her mother had told her that she was Descended.
But these words of, it's my job to protect you and family comes first, they do Diem in. She explodes on her mother with a, quote, and you failed. Shouts to Amanda Dolan, who does that part in the audiobook perfectly. Orly may have said that she takes her responsibility for her secret keeping and what that did over the years. But she does only to the point of justifying that it was the right thing to do. In the past year, Orly could never have imagined what went down with her family. But the truth is, she hasn't been trying to understand. She's only kept that same mother knows best attitude. This is a drinking game at this point. You're very hydrated. Until this moment, though. Until Diem lays it all out. Candidly, very candidly, telling her mother just how much those lies not only hurt Diem, but hurt Teller, and caused a destruction in the Bellator family so acute it would be a long time before it's ever fixed. I am going to say this. 3 fucking cheers for Diem. We have been building up to this outburst for 3 books. From Diem's inner monologue almost being a copy and paste of what Orly wanted her to believe. Again, shouts to that delulu Diem. Missed that game. Then to start to challenge those thoughts, realizing just how in the dark she was. And now to this budding and overflowing resentment that has finally led us to this moment.
Diem's words are like a knife in the heart to Orly, but it's a necessary one. Orly wasn't there for Diem and her family at their absolute lowest, but Luther was. Diem went through hell and back, and she needed her mother. And now here her mother is, and Orly is being so stuck in her ways and not recognizing her daughter as the woman she is. And this is how we see a shift in Orly. She's finally ready to listen and open her mind to catching up and living in this new painful reality that Diem is in, that Diem is begging her mother to look at and understand and even just recognize. When we'll be reunited with Orly in the Burn preview chapters, we will see this shift in her as her priority does become her family, specifically getting Diem back, to the point that she is starting to lose credibility in the Guardian camp. With how she and Cordelia butt heads as the 2 leaders, Orly will be determined to rescue her daughter and put everything that the Guardians are working toward at risk for Diem's freedom from the island. Which is exactly what the Crowns will rely on to turn the Guardians against Orly. But now I'm getting ahead of myself. Point is, she really does take this to heart. And I am proud of her for that. We've given her many, many an L. And here we do see that evolution and that change and a very pivotal shift in her character. And I'm really looking forward to exploring that more in Burn. And I think she will get quite the redemption arc.
Well, and I want to just point out that this is one of the things that Penn does so masterfully. And one thing that I'm really going to keep at the front of my mind in Burn is having this open mind that people can change in this way, especially when it comes to people like Eamon or Henry. And I really encourage listeners to have that mindset as well. This shift in Orly doesn't just go to Diem, though. It also extends to Luther. Maybe not in the same way of immediately taking him under her wing. She does spend the night grilling him endlessly on the wrongs she's assumed he's done. But then she's waited and listened as he explained away each one. Again, that growth is there.
Yeah, we're getting somewhere, Orly. All right.
But there's one final test for this man she's starting to guess will become her son-in-law. Orly pulls Luther away to talk to him solo. Also, side note, ways to piss off Diem 101. This right here. But after a long time of just Luther talking, what we will learn later is him saying how he loves Diem's kindness and her heart. Orly pulls him into a big mama hug. Acceptance complete. Pause to think about how much this means to Luther. He does not have a mother. And while him and Orly have a ways to go, I do see this being the beginning of a very solid friendship, I guess. We don't know how long it's been since Luther's been hugged in this way. Even though we don't see these two on the page for the rest of the book, of this book, we do know in Burn that Luther has been with her and the Guardians for about a month. Are they super warm and fuzzy with each other? Not necessarily, but they're also definitely not hostile, and it's very clear that they're on the same team. I am so here for this mother-son-in-law relationship.
Before they head to Sofos, the crew comes up with a new plan. Orly is to meet up with nearby Guardians, obviously not Vance's Guardians, but the others in this area, with the goal to send warnings to all of the cells about Ophiucae and what he's doing and planning. Which, by the way, it seems Orly has known that Guardians are around them for a little bit now. I assume the Guardians were, I'll say, following them for a bit. We know from the Burn preview chapters that the Guardians end up moving their Montios camp to Arbros in an attempt to limit the amount of rebels Vance can recruit to Ophiucae's side. And they will send out a call to all the Guardians to join them in the Arbros as well.
While Orly goes to the Guardians, Diem and Luther are off to Sofos for about a million reasons, but let's talk about the main two. Number one, Diem needs to finish her coronation. And who's in charge of the rituals on the island? Doriel, Crown of Sofos. So they need to go talk to them, hope that, Doriel doesn't kill her on sight for entering their realm, and then talk to them about forgetting about the wanted sign over her head and get them to agree to finish the ritual. What could go wrong? Diem is also having to trust that Orly, while she goes back to the Guardians, is getting the Guardians to agree to leave the temple on Kareel so that they can finish the coronation. But then there's also reason number 2. Diem needs to unlock the last of the Kindred's magic. Sofos magic of thought, basically like a photographic memory on steroids. And secondly, because all Kindred realms have 2 magics, spark, which is basically like she's a big old battery pack. So it is off to Sofos, which we're going to get to next episode. Battle episode, baby!
In this magic-fueled segment of the episode, let's tap into our Umbros magic and turn our full attention to important foreshadowing moments for the rest of this book, including speculations for Book 4, Burn of the Everflame. I'll start it off here. Orly makes a comment that not even the Descended heal this fast. And yep, Diem is definitely not like most Descended.
Nope. Orly also says, and I quote, "It was a godstone dagger to the heart, Diem. No one survives that, mortal or descended." Well, Ophiucae did, and we're gonna strongly assume Diem does too.
Diem thinks about how she hates being a pawn in the Kindred's games, and she wants to make a choice that is hers and hers alone, quote, even if it led me to ruin. Could this be a factor to why she proposes the bonded bargain with Doriel? Or we will see her make a choice that really does go against the Kindred because it's hers to make, and that leads to extra bad things.
So Luther points out that in Ophiucae's camp, there are lemons, potatoes, and wheats. Oh my! But how is this possible in winter? I think that this is our first glimpse at him being able to use all the magic of the Kindred, because we have been going back and forth on that. AKA, this is Ophi using Arboros magic, and there's even a mention of stone fortresses as well, which is Montios magic. When Diem learns Ophiucae's name, she immediately thinks about the names that have been erased from history. While she's talking about the mortal history, I just want to bring up again that we know the Kindred had their own names in their home world, and those are lost to history. Just another Easter egg that Ophiucae could be Omnos's real name.
Diem thinks about how she doesn't know if she would be able to stop herself from intervening if Luther tries to kill Ophiucae. She grapples in this passage about what she has to do and who she has to kill, and I really, really don't think she will be able to follow through with killing her father. Well, maybe. The only way I can see this is maybe in the final battle when everyone is dying, and it will have to be the highest of high stakes for it to even be a possibility that she lets this happen.
Well, let's not forget what she says to Ircel. Everything. I am willing to give everything. And I could see this so clearly. Like, she has this internal battle with herself, and it's like, don't kill him, don't kill him, don't kill him. And she's like literally about to strike the blow. And then she remembers that promise she gave to Ircel, and that's when she like pulls the trigger, basically.
I could see that.
I could see. Oh, God.
I also think we've gotten a few mentions. I don't know if we've seen it already, but we will definitely see it in the coming chapters, where she's wondering, well, maybe he's not all bad. And Luther's like, honey.
Honey, dearest.
So I could also see Ophiucae giving a glimpse of a good person, kind of like how Orly experienced with him. He was charming. He was loving and all of that kind of stuff. He knows how to manipulate people. And I think that he is going to prey on Diem and her weakness with that.
Oh, God, yeah.
And she is going to really battle with like, but maybe he is good, and then he's going to go and kill a lot more people. And it's like, oh, maybe I do need to kill him after all. And yeah.
Oh, God. I hope you're wrong. Now it's time to enter the Sofos library, where each episode Lexi guides us through a world-building topic to help us deepen our understanding of this world and its magic.
Today's Sofos library topic is Montios. Aren't we all just learning so much about the realms of Amarian in this deep dive? This is my map dream right here. The other realms know little about the reclusive druidic residents of Montios, as they are rarely seen and refuse to speak to outsiders. But luckily for us, we get a sneak peek into the secluded realm, so let's dive in. All right, so let's go through the basics as always. Montios is the realm of stone and ice. Its descendants' eye color is purple, but more precisely lavender. That's how they always refer to it. Their 2 types of magic are the ability to control rock and/or ice and snow. Montios' sigil is a trio of snow-capped mountain peaks. Night Court, is that you? Moving on to its geography, Montios is the largest realm in Amarian, and this is because it was once two realms until it was redrawn into one very large realm. And only one half of this realm is used by the Montios people. The other half is the Forgotten Lands, and it is largely ignored, but more on that in a bit. Montios is located northwest in the Amarian continent circle, so like Nicole said earlier, it takes up the 10 to 12 on the clock, with Lumnos as its southern neighbor and Sofos as its eastern neighbor. The endless lilac slopes stretch the length of the horizon, and while it's beautiful with all its mountains, the Montios terrain is desolate, too harsh for most life to survive. Due to the snowy winter-like conditions, there's little vegetation within this realm. That's not to say there isn't any vegetation or wildlife, because there are absolutely streams with an abundance of animals. Montios also has a very specifically rare herb that only grows here, and this is the herb that would have been the cure for Henry's mother's illness that we learned about back in Spark. At least one of the cities in this realm is underground. To get to this underground city, you have to enter through the caves, which opens up to a cliff that disappears into a deep ravine. Using their ice magic, the Montios descended are able to create spiraling bridges that go down into the ravine. You all, I can't stop grinning right now. As you go down the bridge, you enter a tunnel of carved stone, which has a room for visitors, like their waiting room right there, since no one but Montios descended are allowed past this point. With a Montio descendant's touch on a huge rock slab, a doorway appears with the Montios sigil etched into it. Then you're in the atrium with the high ceilings crafted entirely of ice. This icy ceiling lights up the space, but it also keeps their location unknown from the outside because it helps keep this area hidden, right? The atrium has towering stone columns and firelit torches. People are all around here. It's a quiet but busy area. And at the center of the room is a statue of Mother Montios. I love it all. All right, so now shifting into the politics and Montios society. The Montios descended are extremely isolated from the rest of Amarian. Once their magic comes in, they do not speak to outsiders. Some of them even choose to never speak again ever at all, even to those in their own realm. This practice is because Blessed Mother Montios made these mountains her home because she believed being isolated and spending time in silence enhances the mind and opens them to higher truths. So the children, before their magic comes in, can speak to outsiders, as we experience in this stretch of chapters, with the young girl speaking for the group of Montios until only Montios descended, including Diem, were present in the space. These descended also dislike weapons, preferring to use their magic instead, and it governs itself differently from the other realms. Their council, not their crown, makes the decisions for the Montios realm. The crown is a member of the council, but the rest are chosen by the people of Montios. The crown has the same voting power as the rest of the members, with the exception of when they can't come to an agreement, in which the crown then gets to make the final decision. So I'm guessing that the council is made up of an even number, and then the crown is the odd number there. The council is elected by the realm's descended people. King Renmai was the late Montios crown, R.I.P. He was an old, frail-looking man and used a walking stick, and just like the rest of his realm, he refused to talk to anyone who was not from Montios. He was the only other crown that was alive during the Blood War, along with Yourcell, so he was one of the Blood War crowns that put Ophiucae in his prison. Considering how old he was in our story when we met him at the end of Glow, seemingly much older than Yourcell, who is only described as mature but still in her prime, I'm guessing he was middle-aged for a descendant even back then. The Montios Gryvern was Ramari, who was a female and, as we've talked about, is sadly deceased now. She was the oldest of the Gryverns, pure white from tongue to tail, with scales like opals, and she was friends with Sarai. Unfortunately, Ramai was killed centuries ago during the Blood War, when the Igneos Gryvern took on 3 at once, and the other crowns were trying to force Igneos into joining. He gravely wounded the Montios Gryvern, and that's why she was weak enough for the Guardians to ultimately kill her. The area that the Montios Gryvern fell is spelled so that only the Montios crown is allowed to step foot inside the spot where she died. The snow falls continuously above a perfect circle of an unblemished grassy plateau. Let's talk about the mortal relations in Montios, because mortals are banned in this realm, which was done for their own protection. The mortals cannot survive the climate here as well as the descended can, and the descended were finding the mortals' corpses on the mountain dead from hunger and the cold, and they didn't want to see any more lives lost. The descended originally reached out to the mortals to offer help, but the mortals did not trust the council. This is because the council is only filled with descended, and the mortals were not even allowed to vote on its members. So as fair as Montios is, it still held that prejudice against the mortals, that the descended always knew better, and the mortals were not involved in any decision making at all there. Even though the mortals are technically forbidden, it's easy for them to still access the realm, as there isn't any magical restrictions like Igneos has. Because of this, mortals can just waltz into the realm and hide out, like the large guardian camp in the Forgotten Lands, as well as other guardians too. I say hide out, but the council does know that this camp is here, and they just decide to turn a blind eye to it because it's in the Forgotten Lands and the descended avoid going there. And then we have the Forgotten Lands, which is part of Montios. However, the Forgotten Lands is actually the lost realm of the 10th kindred, Omnos, but no one except Sofos Crown knows that. To the Montios descended, this is an area of the realm where they don't enter. They say the land is evil and cursed. Very few descended are willing to even go in the first place, and most who do are never seen again. Dun dun dun. When the Lavender Mountains end, a dark forest set on a series of steep hills form. Its trees are blackened and gnarled, like they've been burned or poisoned. At the center is a valley so deep you can't see the bottom. Though it is within Montios borders, this land feels angrily disconnected, like it's being rejected by the realm itself. And there you have it. That's what we know about Montios, one of my favorite realms.
Let us close out this episode with skipping around the apple orchard. I even have my apple orchard shirt on today to discuss our favorite moments from this stretch of chapters.
The running joke about titles continues, and as frustrating as Orly can be, it is very funny when she chastises Luther for being so familiar with Diem. Wait till she finds out that Diem told all of the Courbois family and others to only call her Diem.
Oh, God. We got another moon watch. As they are flying into Lumnos, Diem notes how the moon, quote, always my mischievous nemesis, illuminated them too much, making their arrival near impossible to go unnoticed. What does this mean? I don't know. I'm just waving my hand saying Moonwatch.
The way that Sarai gets to fly and be free. I just love you, Sarai.
I love this line. Quote, had I held myself back all these years because I didn't want to give my heart away, or had I simply never found someone worthy of giving it to? Oh my God, I love that line.
It's one of my other low-key favorite lines because it summarizes a feeling of commitment and love so well.
Absolutely. I do not care how many times we say it every single episode. I freaking love magic in this world. Diem notes how she learned from her training with the leaks that when a wielder is more familiar with an object, it is easier for them to create it out of magic, which is why it is so simple for Diem to create shadow or light weapons. But when Diem is trying to create an ice flower for Romari's gravesite, it is much more difficult for her to do such intricate magic. Allow me to state Diem in a sentence. Quote, perhaps I'd come closer to danger than I thought. We get our first Luther and Diem goat farmers mention. At last, favorite moments finally make sense. We don't get fully to the Terran Jr., and right now they only have one goat. But if they don't get their goat farm at the end of this book, at the end of the series, I'm going to be so sad.
Also, just the fact that Luther really likes goats is so cute and so random. And he's like, I seem to have a weakness for very cute troublemakers. You all, I used to have a goat. They are mean, and they kept escaping all the time, and then we would spend the entire day having to chase after them. And I hope they enjoy their goat farm, because I don't want to have any goats after that. No offense to goats. They're lovely.
I completely forgot about when the goats were on the ranch. Oh my God. And last but not least, Luther saying he hopes he's proven that no matter what sword he's working with, he can get the job done. And Diem looks below his belt and says, not yet, you haven't. Iconic. One more full episode. One more. I hope you're ready for the final episode of Heat of the Everflame, for just being me taking the mic for 30 minutes, walking us through a sex scene.
I know. That was literally how we helped break up the last two episodes, because it was like, we don't want to have it during this because it'll be too much. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this episode 6 of our Heat of the Everflame deep dive.
Next Monday, September 15th, is our second to last episode of Heat of the Everflame, where we are covering chapters 65 through 70. It is a battle episode, baby.
So
excited.
In case you missed it, the next series we're covering after these 8 Heat of the Everflame episodes is Quicksilver by Callie Hart. Yes, it will include spoilers for the whole book, and episode 1 begins on October 6th. We will deep dive Quicksilver in the lead up to the sequel Brimstone, and then cover that through the end of the year. We will cover the 4th and final book of the Kindred's Curse saga, Burn of the Everflame, as soon as it releases. More details on the schedule when we have a release date. We'd love to give the biggest warm welcome to our newest Crowns Council members.
Thank you so much for joining Katie, aka Deet, and Caitlin. Welcome. We are so appreciative of you both, and thank you for supporting the show.
And if you're like, hey, I want my name shouted out on the podcast and be showered with all the love and attention too, join our fan club at fantasyfangirls.com/fan club. Link is also in the show notes.
Thank you, as always, to our top Sofos scholar. It's time to finally go to your realm, aka our content researcher, Brooke, and of course, our executive producer, aka our sanity manager, Hayden. We truly don't know what we would do without you both.
We are very active on social media with weekly trivia and lots more. So please be sure to follow us on Instagram and/or TikTok at Fantasy Fangirls Pod. And if you're watching this on YouTube or want to watch on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button to keep following along.
While you're pressing buttons, please do not forget to press that 5-star rating and reviewing button. It is one of the most helpful things that you can do, not just for this podcast, but for any and all podcasts you love. And if you're feeling extra generous, writing a little love note in that review section is really does wonders. And last but not least, don't forget to share this episode with your fellow Everflame friends. If you all need a little bit of cathartic Orly talk, this is a great episode to send to the group text.
Or if you're wondering about what the heck 11 must fall for 1 to rise means, this
Join
is a
the
great
club.
episode too. Yes,
Join the club.
Thank you all so much. We're going to go ahead and get offline and literally go jump in the car to go hang out with Penn. Bye!
This is a fucking, what is a refrigerator? What are those poems that are like, never mind, don't worry about it.